Hello and welcome to episode 38 of Fright Lounge, the show in which the best horrorologists in town will discuss horror in depth and get a conversation going for the seasoned horror viewers as well as newbies. I am your host, Rigor, from the podcast Then Is Now, The East Meets the West, and the Cult Movie Lounge, as well as Soap Hub and Soap Central. And tonight would have almost been all five of us. I was working on a background that would incorporate all five of us, but Dantes couldn't make it at the last minute. So that being said, joining me as always are my co-hosts. Starting with the grooviest doomsayer, Bill Van Ryn from Groovy Doom and Drive-In Asylum. How's it going, Bill?
Hello. Oh, wonderful. I'm glad to be here. We've been off for an entire month from
I
our
know.
from our weekly show. So this is the first time I've done a podcast or a live stream in probably 4 weeks, which is unusual for me.
I know. I went to look at your show and then I was like, wait a minute, that was a while ago.
It's not there.
All right. And we have up next is the best guy since sliced bread, Owen. Thanks for being
Hey,
here, Owen.
you're welcome. It's glad to be back. I
Awesome.
missed the last couple shows, and even tonight there was almost something that happened, and I was like, no, I'm working around it. I'll get here.
Awesome. Awesome.
Nice.
And
Cool.
finally, MyKill is back with a blender, or is that Vengeance, I should say.
With a
Glad to have you
vengeance.
back, MyKill.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, folks. Tonight we are going to discuss the films. We're going to discuss four films by the French filmmaker Jean Rollin, but we will get to that in a second. Owen, as you mentioned, you were unable to make the last two shows. Did you have anything you wanted to say about Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, or any of the vigilante movies?
Um, like short but sweet, but I mean, Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Living Dead were two movies that I knew like were classics that I have either never seen or I saw when I was very little at like my uncle's house or something like that. Remember the trapped in the house scene of Night of the Living Dead,
Yeah.
and I knew the ending was coming, with the main character, and so that jogged the memory loose. However, what I did want to talk about was the original Death Wish.
Yes.
Had no idea it was Charles Bronson was such a liberal to start out that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you think it's your typical, revenge movie, and it's this hardcore guy that's, kicking ass because that's how Death Wish 4 and the rest of them are,
Right.
almost like the Fast and Furiouses, like they get over
Yeah.
the top.
Yeah.
So that was very interesting to me. I did not know that until I saw it while I was watching it for your podcast.
Cool. What'd you think of The Exterminator?
Oh, yeah, just a Punisher ripoff. But but I love how they ended that, and they did have an Exterminator 2, didn't they?
Yes. Yep. Mario Van
Yeah,
Peebles was the villain in that. I saw that in the drive-in as well.
Real Pin
yeah,
Peoples.
yeah, yeah. Now that I'm remembering that movie, that was yeah, that was you're right, pretty much a Punisher, and I love the way it ended though. It had a good ending.
Yeah. Right. So I don't want to go much further into that, but I do want to mention, do you recognize Vigilante Force? The main character was the main actor was Jan Michael Vincent from the Banana Splits show
Yeah.
Danger Island.
Oh, Jan Michael Vincent, I remember him as a kid like you wouldn't believe. So when I
Yeah.
saw him in that movie, I was like, oh yeah,
There
yeah,
was a short period where he was everywhere, wasn't
Yeah.
there?
yes, there was. It
And
was
it was
during the
actually
Dukes
around
of
that,
Hazzard days.
and it was around that time the Vigilante Force came up because he had like three other movies in the theater at the same time.
Yeah, really.
Not three, he had like two, I think, but
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, he was everywhere for a while. That's for sure.
nice.
And I only know him from Airwolf. I didn't even know he was in the movie, like had a movie career. I thought he was just a TV guy.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I loved Arrow Wolf.
He was yeah, Airwolf was awesome. I used to love
How
that.
did the vigilante to me, vigilante movies don't necessarily fit into Fright Lounge is usually horror stuff. Did you just like it just came up and you guys all started talking about let's do a bunch of those movies to
No, I kind of wanted to do it, but they're exploitation films, and exploitation and horror kind of go hand in hand.
Oh,
All right.
I gotcha. Okay.
I
So,
just say that about Hitchhikers.
So it
Yeah.
was Death Wish, The Exterminator, and what else did you do for that one?
Vigilante and Vigilante Force.
Oh, okay.
Vigilante was good. They were all really good, I thought.
That's right. Vigilante Force. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
I've
It
seen
was
that.
almost like Roadhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excuse me. All right. So tonight, I'm going to just start off by giving a little bit of background on Jean Rollin, just so we can have an
Jean Rollin.
Jean Rollin. Oh, pardon me.
Jean Rollin,
Uh-huh.
Roland.
we are
Jean
friends
Rollins.
today.
Henry Rollins. Um,
They're
so,
relatives.
so we can get an idea of, who he was as a filmmaker and his place in film history. He was born in France in 1938. His parents were like super artistic. They hung out in art and literary circles, so that kind of influenced his poetic and surreal sensibilities. He started off as a comic book writer. He became a playwright and short filmmaker, and his first feature was The Rape of the Vampire from 1968, which shocked French audiences with its surreal and erotic take on the vampire mythology. His signature style is he has dreamlike atmosphere with minimal dialogue in most of his movies. He's got eroticism blended with gothic horror, frequent imagery of ruins, graveyards, and twin women and beaches, female-centric narratives with tragic, ghostly, or vampiric heroines, and themes of beauty in decay, fatalistic romance, and innocence corrupted. He basically pioneered French cinema, French horror cinema, I should say. They weren't putting any horror stuff out at the time, so that he was kind of a pioneer in that regard. And while he's been often dismissed in his lifetime as an exploitation or softcore director due to his erotic content, his films are now recognized for their unique blend of art, cinema, and genre pulp. He influenced people like Benicio del Toro in his romantic horror films that he's done. Um, he used a lot of he used a lot of pseudonyms. I can't speak for his more personal projects. I'm sorry, to do the erotic films to fund his more personal projects. So he really was an artist at his core, and he was kind of forced to do erotic films. Um, but he passed away in 2010, and since then he's been considered a visionary. Kino Lorber and Severin and Redemption are putting out his films, and he's often a misunderstood figure in film history, especially in the realms of European horror, surrealist cinema, and cult exploitation. But his work is like both art and erotica, poetry and pulp. And Bill, is there anything else you wanted to add about Jean Rollin?
Jean Rollin. Uh, well, you hit all the major points there. It's filmmaking that, as we may hear later on the broadcast, takes some getting used to, I should say. And it's not to everybody's taste. But
Hmm.
I think that there's something in Jean Rollin's work that it's not very mainstream cinema, but there's a very strange way of communicating with the viewer that he has. And it's like you mentioned, there's very little dialogue in the films. It's all about imagery. It's all about the vibe. That's what his movies are. They're like a total vibe. And he really nailed that. And not so much with Schoolgirl Hitchhikers, but with the other three films on tonight's roster. I mean, Schoolgirl Hitchhikers is more like a comedy, but the other films are very, very surreal and just very strange experiences. There aren't many people like him. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Deathbed, The Bed That Eats.
I haven't, but you've talked about it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it's talked. I think Patton Oswalt did a comedy piece about it, and it's somewhat derisively.
That's gonna be good.
Um, and Deathbed, The Bed That Eats is very similar to the work of Jean Rollin because it's way out there in narrative. I mean, it's not meant to be taken seriously or literally like all of the movies on tonight's show. So it's interesting to see other people that are influenced by Rollin. That's my point because people did not like him in the 80s, American horror audiences didn't really get into his movies all that much because they didn't deliver the
Pretty weird.
goods,
Yeah.
according to certain standards.
Right.
There's different demographics for every movie, and this one really was not for people, or all of them, I should say, tonight. They're not for people who are looking for that cohesive narrative experience and like Dawn of the Dead, an adventure, that really involves you with the characters. And these movies don't really aspire to anything like that. They get you in another way, and that's what I like about him.
They
Yeah.
all struck me as movies that would be better, like that people would just sit around in a drug den and get stoned and have the movie on in the background. Like you don't need to like shut everything else off and sit down and actually pay attention because your efforts are going to be wasted. I found out the hard way. You talk about how he communicates with the viewer. I'm like, he communicates with the viewer? When did that happen? I was the viewer and I didn't
At least once or twice in every movie.
I was dying for him to communicate more with me, and he just wasn't.
I've seen him do
Except for
that.
one of these movies I really did like, and one I sort of liked, and yeah, the other two I didn't. So it blows my mind to hear you guys talking about how he had an influence on other filmmakers and all this other stuff, because it just like I came away from his movies going like, who gave this guy a camera? Like, what the fuck, But again, maybe I was just coming at it from a more like literal angle of just like I expect things to make sense, and I want to, if something's going on. The lack of dialogue drove me insane.
That's the toughest thing, I think.
I was just like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why is he doing that? Where is he going? And how does he know that? And like, they're not saying anything. So
All right, let's
they
get
would
into
spend
it.
a lot of time. Like you'd go through like 2.5 minutes where all it was the girl walking in the woods,
right,
or in a hallway.
I was thinking about the walking in the woods.
Like 3.5 minutes of that with no dialogue, and they're just walking through a hallway. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And I get what it's like, somewhere in between of what Bill said. Like I see the cinematography of it and what he's trying to portray, but it drags.
Right. So, all right, so let's get into it. We'll talk about the first film. I'm going to go in chronological order. So, The Shiver of the Vampires from 1971. I had a hard time. This was a funny story, actually. Bill and I were communicating outside of the show, and the film's gone by other titles like Sex and Vampires, Strange Things Happen at Night, and Terror of the Vampires. I thought I didn't find Strange Things Happen at Night until Bill sent me one of the images, and I was like, of the newspaper ads we were looking for. And I was like, oh, wait, I saw that one, and I totally disregarded it because I was, you'll see when we get to that part. But every time I typed in Sex and Vampires, newspapers.com would give me an error message like, this goes against our standards and all this stuff. And I must have done it like 20 times throughout the week, and it would not let me do it. Then Bill says, oh, that's weird. It never happens to me. So I went to check, and I was going to do a screenshot and send it to him, and it worked perfectly fine. So
strange things happen on the internet, Rigor.
that was like 7 o'clock. So at that point, I was like, fuck it. I'll just go with the ones Bill sent me. Not digging.
One time I looked up I did a search on DuckDuckGo for like erotic comics or something, and it was like no results found. And I was like, no results found? Like nothing?
That's a lie.
What the? And then later on, I tried it, and it no results found, no results found. And then like a couple days later, I tried again, and it was fine. And I had like tons of results, and I was like, what? Why? What? Like, the world just shut off for a couple of days.
I think the software every once in a while gets flaky. So, all right. So the synopsis for Shiver of the Vampires is as follows. Newlyweds Islay and Antoine arrive in a sleepy French village to visit Islay's cousins, only to learn they just died the day before. Ooh, how tragic. Undeterred, they continue to the cousins' eerie chateau, where two mysterious maidservants welcome them. That night, upset and choosing to sleep alone, Islay is startled when a strange woman, Isolde, emerges from a grandfather clock, probably from Batman's cave, and seduces her, leading her to the cemetery and biting her neck. Meanwhile, a lonely Antoine searches the castle, stumbling upon a ritual in the chapel where Islay's supposedly dead cousins appear, warning that if Islay isn't killed, she will become a vampire like them. Confused and shaken, Antoine finds Islay back in bed, unsure if it was all a nightmare. The next morning, the maidservants casually reveal that Islay's cousins aren't dead after all. Oh, that's good. When Antoine goes to investigate in the library, he's knocked out by falling books. He later meets the cousins at breakfast, but that night, Islay sleeps alone again. Isolde returns, biting Islay once more. Isabel, a woman who loved the cousins and likes to have another name that begins with I, learns that they were vampire hunters who returned themselves. When she confronted Isolde, Isolde viciously pierces her with her metal nipple covers, and in revenge, the cousins rape Isolde. Later, Antoine is woken by the maids and led to the chapel for a dark ceremony. He bursts in only to find everyone gone. Panicked, he tries to convince Islay to flee, but she refuses. And spoiler alert, folks, this is a spoiler show. The next morning, Islay recoils from sunlight. That night is her final initiation. Antoine tries to save her, but Isolde's coffin ignites. Trapped inside, she bites her wrist and dies. As dawn breaks, Islay rejects Antoine to remain with her vampire cousins, awaiting the rising sun together. That actually made it sound far more exciting than the movie was, I think. But
It's a lot more informative than actually watching the film.
Yes, there exactly. It gives a lot more detail than you actually get from watching the movie.
right. So let's do our first impression. So, MyKill, why don't you go ahead? I know you have some strong opinions about these movies.
I really hated this movie. Well, let me say this. This movie confused me and annoyed me in a lot of ways, and I was very frustrated by the end of it. And I thought it was just so bad until the next movie, and then I was like, oh, the first movie wasn't that bad. Um, yeah, I guess all of the stuff that you said about Jean Rollin at the beginning of the episode just now about his style and how he like mixed things together and was trying a different way of presenting things and all that, like that just went right over my head, and I just wanted things to make sense, and a lot of the movie didn't make sense to me, and just I just found it frustrating. I'm just trying to keep it simple and not get into too much detail at this point. It just frustrated me and annoyed me, and I didn't feel like, yeah, I didn't feel like he was giving me as the viewer enough information about what the hell was going on, and I don't like that when I watch a movie, and so I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I came away thinking there were like a couple of little moments that I thought were like okay, but like on the whole, I kind of, yeah, I didn't really get. I don't want to say I didn't get the point of it, but like I don't know. It didn't make sense to me. A lot of it didn't make sense to me, and I found that frustrating. So let's just say that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, Bill, can I assume that this is not a first time viewing for you, this movie?
No, I've seen it before.
Yeah.
I did watch it again though, just yesterday actually, in preparation for this show. Or maybe it was today. I watched so many similar films that it was just crazy. Like not only these four, you know how Tubi brings up another movie for
Yes.
you after one ends. Like the one that came up after it was this. I think it was an American uh, movie that looked just like Shiver the Vampires, except it had like a little bit more explicit sex in it. It was Vampire Ecstasy
Oh,
by
yeah.
Joseph Sarno.
Yep.
So he was a porn director, and I was like, oh, well, they're showing this on Tubi, but it didn't have any no shots in it. Just it looked just like Shiver the Vampires. They were very similar.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I really dig it because I was a huge vampire fan when I was a kid, okay, and it was many of us were. Dracula was my favorite of the monsters, and I was just obsessed with finding every vampire movie that I could. And I remember reading something in a book. I think it was Horror Films by Alan Frank, which was, the Bible to me. This was like the first big book I ever got about horror movies when I was 7 years old. And I think they mentioned Shiver of the Vampires, and it was impossible to find at that time anyway, to find this movie, although they did show it on TV. I know they showed it on TV. In fact, I should have gone back and looked for it in the listings in preparation for this show. Um, and it eluded me. So me latching onto that because I like vampires and everything, I think that's what leads a lot of fans into this. If we're going to be honest here, these are exploitation films to show naked females. And that's what all of these movies did
Yep.
perfectly. I mean, it was all about naked women. So these were,
That's why
off
he's my
court.
favorite director ever.
He was doing your kind of work, huh? I can dig it, So this was sort of like a dual thing here. It was appealing to horror fans because it was about vampires. And we didn't have as many choices back then. That's important to remember too. Like you could put more importance on a movie like Shiver the Vampires where there aren't that many other vampire movies to choose from on late night TV or wherever you're going to find them. So, there was a draw to get in there. There was a horror draw. They were appealing to a horror audience, but this was just more of a way to show nude flesh. And,
Mhm.
which,
It was.
that's good. That's cool too.
Awesome. Owen,
Yes.
obviously first time viewing for you.
Yes. Similar thoughts. I mean, not a great movie. However, it was the second one on my list that I watched. And I thought it was like, at least production wise and plot wise, put together better than the first. So when I was watching it, I didn't think it was as bad as it was.
Which one did
But
you watch first?
Hitchhikers.
Okay, that's what I figured.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, at least this, but like he said, the confusing part, like how they throw plot away sometimes, like it's nothing. They talk about like ISIS, the god ISIS, and Egyptian shit they bring into it. Remember that
Yeah.
Mhm.
at the table, and then that's it. It just like dismissed. They never bring that up again. Like it has nothing to do with the story after that, ever, unless it has to do with like taking a girl's shirt off.
That's it. That's what ISIS means, right?
Right. Yeah. It had interesting points though. It was an interesting movie. Yeah, that's the one though out of all of them that like doesn't stick out to me as the most. You know what I mean? It's the most forgettable, I should say, out of the three, out of the four that we watched.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, it's that forgettable.
What about you, Rigor?
Well, it was funny because I presented my wife with the four films, and I said, "Which one do you want to watch?" And of course, she picked Schoolgirl Hitchhikers as the first one, but this one was the second one that we
It
watched.
sounds so scandalous.
Yeah. This one I think I may have caught it somewhere along the way. I don't remember if I rented it or if I caught it because some of the scenes all of a sudden were familiar to me. I may have caught it on late night TV, wrestling with the antenna or something, but I think a lot of them were hard to get on TV because they'd be cut so much. The movie'd be like, 45 minutes long, right, Bill?
Yep.
Well, yeah,
Oh,
I mean, you can do a lot though when you're cutting a film. You can zoom in and obscure anything above the below the
That's
breast
true.
line.
That's
So
true.
you
I
could
mean,
do something like that.
I definitely read about Jean Rollin in various magazines. And I knew I wanted to see his movie. So when I saw these all on Tubi and I was kind of did a quick dive and I was like, "Ooh, let's look at his films," because I wasn't really well versed in them. Um, yeah, you know what? This movie did meander quite a bit. And it got to a point where I just put my brain on hold and I was just like, let's
yeah.
just enjoy it. I'm not gonna fight it.
Do that at the start of these movies instead of halfway through.
Yeah, you know how they say check your brain at the door? Sometimes you go to an action movie or something. That's what you have to do with these, I realized.
Yeah, exactly. So, Bill, did you send me some? You sent me some, right? I know I downloaded them.
Yeah,
They must have went to my downloads folder.
Gone.
I sent you some newsprint images.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna start with this one and then
Yeah, I was not expecting all the nudity in these movies. That definitely caught me off guard. But then I was like, hey, he's a French filmmaker. What are you gonna do? Maybe this is normal for them. I don't know. It's like,
The French, man.
yeah,
here we go. And
yes,
then
we have to go. We have to begin to rebuild the house and boobies. It's
yes.
like, what? Wait.
Well, I mean, that was the height of those kind of exploitation movies.
Right.
If you look at the newspaper
Exactly.
ads, there was tons of X-rated movies playing along with the softcore stuff like this.
Oh my God,
That's
I thought
true.
it
Yeah,
was hilarious.
Yep.
these say X, but this is a British paper, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't mean the same thing that it means in the
Yeah.
States.
One
Diary
bite
of
her flesh,
Earth.
and then
Sex
like,
and then fell.
what is that? Sex in the City, Sex and the Vampire.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with Sex and the Single Vampire, which was
What's a
another movie.
half virgin? You're
Well,
like a
she's-
half virgin.
Steve,
Just
but he
the
doesn't count.
We
So
did
I know
some
I
stuff, but
saw
not
these
other stuff.
Demon AX. Of course, I can't see. Oh, strange things happen at night. That's interesting. Now, I may have clipped these, but I don't know. We'll find out.
Excuse me for 1 second.
But I kept seeing because that's another Rollin film, right? Demon AX.
Yeah, yeah. These were two Roland films that were shown together in the United States in drive-ins and grindhouses and all other fine theaters. So, yeah, he did get exposure theatrically in the United States in the 70s, although most of his films, the most popular ones, the ones that we talk about on this program, Grapes of Death and Living Dead Girl, they did not get theatrical distribution. I don't think anywhere outside of France, those two films.
Interesting. Oh, and this is a cool one. Look at that one, huh? Demon AX.
hmm
Strange things happen at night. Torture Dungeon and Blood Mania.
Blood Mania, one of my favorite things. It's soap opera horror, Rigor.
I'm sure I saw it. I'm trying to remember what it's about. So many. A bloodbath of fiendish terror will creep into your cars tonight as weird creatures return and stalk the night.
It could happen.
That's so cool. Spine-tingling array of vampires, witches, and zombies in an all-night terror treat. I mean, look at that ad. It's like something out of one of those EC comics from back then.
Yep.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that was
cool.
a generic ad, Matt, that was, I don't know how these arrived at newspapers, but this was sort of like a generic thing that newspapers could use for any lineup really that they had. They would just fill in the details. That would be a blank box, and they would write whatever they needed to in there. So,
Oh, so it was the newspapers creating this, not like the movie studios?
right. Well, I don't know who created the artwork. If you'll notice, there used to be an ad in comics for something called a horror record.
Yeah.
And if you sent away for it, it was a little 7-inch record with just a plain white label. There was no sleeve. But this ad with the weird looking ghosts ran in the comic books, and it just really intrigued me. I never got one of those records until later in life. I found one at Jerry's Records for like $5 one day.
Oh,
It
wow.
just fell over.
That's a find. That is cool. Let's see what we got next here. Bloodthirsty Butchers, Torture Dungeon, or Demon AX. Oh, and strange things happen in it. Okay. Guys, bring your girlfriends.
Yeah, imagine two Jean Rollin films and two Andy Milligan films, and
That is
that's your
cool.
entire night at the drive-in. I mean,
In fact, I watched those Bloodthirsty Butcher and Torture Dungeon not too long ago. Did we cover those on the show?
we've talked about Andy Milligan on the show, but I don't think we ever covered those two films.
Interesting.
Andy Milligan, if you've never seen any of Andy Milligan's work, it's the movies that were later after their original run, they were used to make everyone go home. At the end of like a
Really?
3 or 4 film lineup, they would put an Andy Milligan film on fourth to clear the lot at the drive-in because nobody
If
would
he's
stay
so
to watch
offended.
it.
Wow.
Did he do the one, the Trooper? Who did the Trooper? No, that's Ray Dennis Steckler, right?
Yeah, that's Ray Dennis Steckler, who I also adore.
That movie, MyKill. If you thought these movies were hard to get through, I wouldn't subject you to that one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are worse things than Jean Rollin.
So I can't see the middle one. What is that? The Tempter.
The Tempter,
Deliver her from evil.
aka the Antichrist,
Oh, okay.
starring Jose Ferrer Jose Ferrer and Carla Gravina as a possessed woman.
Wow.
Hmm.
I did not know that.
It's notorious because there's a scene where she's hallucinating some sort of demonic ritual, and there's a horrifying scene that involves her face and the rear end of a goat.
No, Jesus.
I'm not going to say what happens. I'm just saying it's horrifying.
We can imagine. And look at the third feature at the T-Bird, The Crimson Cult.
That's a good one. That's better than any of the 2 movies that came before it.
Right. Oh, okay. And then that's it. So we'll stop the share.
Did any of you guys seen the most recent Nosferatu?
Yeah.
No,
The movie or
Well,
the TV show?
The movie.
I
the
did
TV
not.
show, not the
No, I'm
movie.
talking about the movie. I didn't even know there was a TV show. I'm talking about the movie.
I saw the movie.
Oh, and did you see my black Firebird when you came to the house?
No,
That
it was
was
dark.
Oh, okay.
I
That was
showed up
used.
so
I just
goddamn
got it.
late.
I got it like a month ago, and it was used in that show Nosferatu.
Wait, you have a black Firebird?
Yeah.
Yeah, she told me you had like 30 cars in the driveway. I saw like 20.
Black one and a red one.
So, anyways, MyKill, you were asking us if we'd seen.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Spoiler. It's that the movie I'm about to mention is a very new one, but it had almost the same ending. It seemed to me, it reminded me, the ending of Nosferatu reminded me a lot of Shiver of the Vampires, or vice versa, because at the end of Shiver of the Vampires, I realized afterwards that the husband was actually really smart to grab his wife's body and bring her to the beach, because there's nowhere for them to hide from the sunlight on the beach. I don't know if he did that on purpose or if he was just running in a
That's a
panic
good point.
or what. But the 2 cousins got out there and they finally got a hold of her. What was her name? Iselda?
Isla.
Isla. And they were like, kind of like, I don't know if they were having sex with her, feeding on her blood, or what they were doing. And one of them had said to the other, I think, if I remember correctly, one of them had said something to the other, like, oh, the sun's kind of coming up, we should find cover. And the other
Yeah.
one was like, yeah, you're right. And then they got so involved with like feasting on her body that they just, I guess, burned, lack of special effects, but I'm guess what happened is they burned up in the sunlight, and that's almost exactly what happens in Nosferatu. He notices the sun coming up, and you'd think he would go, oh fuck, I have to get away from the sunlight, but he doesn't, because he's so fixated on her body,
Dynamic.
and he just
Yeah.
keeps, feasting, and then,
Poof.
poof, yeah.
Oh my God. All right, I'm going to share this poster. I guess I have it open twice. But that's okay.
That's something Nosferatu invented, by the way. Vampires being destroyed by sunlight.
Right.
Really?
The 1920s movie ends that way.
Mm-hmm. That's the
Yeah.
first time a vampire was ever killed by sunlight, even in fiction.
Yeah.
If you've ever read Dracula, he comes out during the daytime in Dracula.
I read it, but it was ages ago.
Can you guys see this poster?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
That's a
beautiful.
pretty good one.
Yeah.
Looks like a tarot card.
It does.
That's what I thought it was till you zoomed in.
And then I found this one too, which was
Oh, wow. Oh, that makes it look like such a better movie than
That's
it is. Or than my experience of it was. Let me say that.
funny. I think that's all.
It had its moments.
That's all I found.
The
So
whole the when the female vampire there, Isolde, whatever her name was, when she first the first night when the clock opened up and she's in the
Yeah,
clock, I was like, what the fuck is going
why
on?
is she in the clock?
Why is she just waiting in the clock? Like it was so
Well,
bizarre.
and why does the lady not be shocked that somebody's in a clock?
Yeah. Yeah, there
Just
was
looked
no
at her
like, what
like,
are you
"Hey,
doing?
how are
Or
you?
yeah,
I
right.
want to be your lover."
These are nightmare movies, you know, they're not happening in real life. It's almost like they're happening in a
True.
bad dream where,
Mm.
you know, I've had dreams like that where I wanted to speak and I couldn't, or I was just so horrified that I couldn't do anything.
It's
And
Mm.
sleep paralysis.
yeah, I think that's sort of, you know, one of the things that informs because I used to be frustrated by stuff like that too, because I'd be like, why isn't she running? Why can't she
Right.
get up and run? But you know, that really is
It,
that's a real thing that happens to people.
Mm.
sure.
flight or fight, right?
Yeah.
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 Or
I liked the
paralyzed.
husband character because he was asking like logical questions. Like there were certain points where he was like, why did they say this? And why are they doing that? And we can't stay here. And
Right.
da, da, da. And I was like, good, yes, listen to him. Like
Right.
we
He
weren't
never
making any
did.
sense. I'm like, nope. Take no, I want more alone time. We just got married. Yes, but go away. I'm sleeping by myself.
Oh my God. But you know, I love the sets that Roland picks for his movies. I liked where this one was set. And the film explores themes of sexual liberation versus repression, female desire and identity, death as transformation, because as you know, like in Salem on Days of Our Lives, death isn't the handicap it used to be. Vampirism as a political metaphor, meaning anarchic versus conformist ideologies. And Roland presents vampires not as monsters, but as seductive philosophical beings who lure others with ideology as much as sensuality. So I thought
That
that
was
was,
something you don't usually
They
see in
did do
vampire
that.
films.
yeah.
Is that why they did all those big speeches about ISIS and all that other stuff?
Right.
It was one of those, yeah.
You know, and this movie is often compared to The Hunger with David Bowie, Blood for Dracula, and Daughters of Darkness. But it predates all of them, and it was probably the inspiration for at least some of them. It's considered one of his most essential works today, blending art cinema with Euro horror in a way that few others dared to attempt. So, all right, let's do our final thoughts on this. MyKill, go with you.
Oh, I took so many notes on all of these, but it would take too long for me to read them. Um, Basically, my final thoughts that I came away uh, is kind of the same as what I said at the beginning. Um, yeah, what was this scene where the guy gets pummeled by the books? What was that? Um,
Uh,
the
Death books that you.
the death by spiked boobies, that was really strange. Um, I found it really a little bit like I don't know. There were so many. I just didn't. There were a lot of points where I just didn't know what to think. Like there were some scenes where there was no dialogue. There were other scenes where they were doing these big long speeches about where they came from and what they used to do and what happened to them and all this other. It was like exposition dump. And then, um, shit. I just had a thought I was going to talk about. What was it? Oh yeah, when the whole thing about Isolde, it seemed like she had control over them. Like she's the one that turned them, I guess. And she
That's what I
seemed like
thought.
Yeah.
she was in charge of the show. And then they were like, "Oh, what if we just gang up on you and rape you?" And she was like, "No, get away from me, get away from me." And I was like, "Okay, I'm a little
Yeah.
disturbed. This is a little disturbing." Like, and then they just never really got back to that afterwards. Like, they never showed really the effects of it. It was
She
just
got
like,
pregnant or not? Right. Like what
and they
happened?
sort of treated it like a joke. Like the guys were like, "Woo, we're gonna rape you, boo boo boo," you know. It was like.
Creepy.
And I guess she doesn't have power over them because they just decided to rebel against her.
Right.
Um,
Owen.
Me?
Yes. What's your
I
final thought?
echo a lot of those sentiments, but at the same time, like it's out of all these films, it's actually his most like artsy. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
kind of pretentious, to be honest with you. You know, for our day and age, it's very pretentious. But he tries to like he tries to say things without words a lot. I noticed that's a theme with the director. You know, with long
But he
shots,
doesn't do it
close
very
shots.
well.
What's it? Yeah, maybe. I mean,
I
he
don't
works
think.
at it. He works
I
at
mean,
it.
because
But
I've seen other movies where the director uses images instead of dialogue, and it's done much better.
perfectly.
I was
Right.
still very confused in this a lot.
I mean, this is 1973, so I don't know if like anyone done it better before him or not.
It's
But
not
I
in
mean,
service of
I
a
could see what he
story.
was trying to do at least. You know what I mean? I could see his vision. But yeah, kind of a forgetful movie if you ask me, except for a few scenes here and there.
Bill.
Oh, I thought I already went.
No, did you?
That already went.
No, I really dig Shiver the Vampires. It's interesting, Owen, that you mentioned that it was pretentious, because I think a lot of that, the context of that, and not just you, like people use that word to describe movies like Shiver the Vampires, which is more about the presentation of the material than about the story. It's not in service of a narrative. And I think that does come off as pretentious to a lot of
You're right.
filmgoers. But to me, it's just a different way to approach a film, and I'm okay with turning that off. Like I don't have to have a narrative so much, especially in a movie like this, because people were going to be watching this at the drive-in at a grindhouse. I mean, I'm not sure that that's where he intended for it to go. He wanted somebody to buy it, obviously, or a distributor wanted somebody to buy it, and it ended up being shown in grindhouses and drive-ins here in the States. Um, um, though it doesn't really seem like a huge statement either, because he did want people to see the movie and be titillated by it at least. So he was making the movie with an audience in mind, and he was doing something that was, pretentious and arty. And I think that's kind of cool that he managed to do that thing, because if you want to market this as an erotic film, which is something he sort of pioneered, like this combination of erotic films and horror movies.
Yep.
Um, if you're gonna make that kind of movie, nobody goes to an erotic film for the story. So
No.
it's just sort of like dressing for the
But
women
it
in the film.
wasn't the percentage of eroticism in it wasn't high enough for
Yeah,
me to like see it as purely eroticism and therefore be like, oh
Well,
well, so what? The story is not doesn't really make sense because it's.
if you removed all of the explicit nudity, there would not be much left to the film. Rigor, I think you said that about the TV cut. So I'm
Yeah.
sure the
you're right.
TV
Yeah.
cut of Shiver the Vampires was probably a little dry.
Sure.
Let's just say.
Right.
Mm.
It's funny. Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I didn't hate this movie. I thought it was
I hate it.
cleverly made. I liked how it looked. And if you're into psychedelic vampire films, then this is the one for you. So I recommend it on that level. All right, next up, we're going to talk about Schoolgirl
I'm
Hitchhikers.
unsatisfied. I feel like we could probably talk about each one of these movies for a really long time.
We
I had
could.
so many. I had like tons of notes on each one, like scenes and things. And
I think you liked these movies way more than you know, Michael.
no, I didn't.
You
I
got him,
didn't at
girl.
all. I
You got
hate it.
him.
First of all, I hate movies in general. I hate sex scenes. When I watch a movie, I hate sex scenes because I think they're a waste of time. Like 99% of the time, it doesn't
Oh,
move the plot
Michael.
forward. It's just like, okay, if I want to watch sex, I'll watch porn. If I'm not watching porn, then I'm watching a movie. I want a story. And like, if you're gonna have sex, it's like, oh, okay, here we go. They're gonna have sex. Let's just fast forward. Let's just get to the next thing that actually means something.
Like the sex scene in The
So like when
Watchmen.
you try to mix like a movie and just
Stupid.
casual porn shit together, that really just bores the shit out of
Well,
me. It's
I think that's what he was going for, though, is the surrealness of it. Is like Bill said, it's a dream. It's not meant to be.
but when is that ever communicated to the audience that it's supposed to be that? I mean,
It's
I
not
guess
something
if you're
that you would communicate to the audience. It's just something you have to bring that as the viewer. You know,
Right.
that has to be coming from you. That's he asks you to participate in the film more than a usual director who would just invite you to turn off your mind and watch Jurassic Park 7, you know, because you know what you're going to see already when you go to a movie like that. Like this was something that maybe you hadn't seen before. So that I don't know, it was more experimental, I guess.
Right.
All right, I guess that word is probably the only one that comes close to.
All right, let's move on to Schoolgirl Hitchhikers
Yeah.
from 1973. I was having trouble finding a release date in the U.S., but it was retitled "Immodest Maidens," and it circulated through regional drive-ins and grindhouses. So, all right, I did have trouble also getting an accurate synopsis, but here goes. After the financial failure of his
Sorry.
beautiful but extremely non-commercial film The Iron Rose, Jean Rollin shifted gears a bit and tried entering the lucrative French sexploitation market for a while under the name Michel Gentil. Two girls, Monica and Jackie, or Monique and Jackie, head off to a house they think is abandoned to spend some quality time together. Later that night, Monica comes across Fred also hiding out in the house. The two of them have sex, and later Jackie joins in on the fun. The next morning, they leave, and when Beatrice shows up, we learn she and Fred are jewel thieves, and the jewels are now missing. The thieves find Monica and Jackie and take them back to the house, believing they stole the jewels, and torture the girls to find out where they are hidden. So, first impressions, Bill, why don't you go first on this one?
Sort of torture them.
Yeah.
Sort of. They're not as mean as they could be. In fact, I can't even believe that they're even doing this in the first place. That's how not mean these people are. But this was the first time I saw Schoolgirl Hitchhikers. As you could probably imagine, there's some aspect to this film that just doesn't appeal to me. I can't figure out what it is. Um, oh, I know. I don't react the same way to naked women. So it's just sort of like, it was really tiresome, but it was funny. I mean, I thought it was cute. And I went into it totally, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't read anything about it. I just turned it on and watched it. And I thought it was going to go in Last House on the Left direction, especially when the girls were tied up and tortured.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you guys have ever seen any of the Olga films that were made in the States, like in the 60s.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah. I think I saw them on Skinamax when I was a kid.
Olga's House of Shame,
Yeah.
Olga's White Slaves of Chinatown
Yep.
was the first one, I think. But she was basically a human trafficker that would get these girls and get them hooked on heroin, and then she would like when they misbehaved or displeased her, she would torture them, which involves stripping off their tops and touching them with what would appear to be a knife or a red hot poker, and it would make like a teeny tiny little red mark on their body, and they'd go ah. That was the kind of torture that Olga did, and they did the same kind of torture in Schoolgirl Hitchhikers. It was just all about the TNA.
That's funny. That's funny. Owen.
Yeah. The same. I mean, I thought, it was kind of soft pornish, and it wasn't a horror movie though. Like, I mean, really, did anyone even die in that movie?
No.
No,
Like,
it's
right,
more of an exploitation film.
you know, it was so totally exploitation. And you know what I thought was one of the greatest scenes is when she goes to the to see the police officer for the first time, and somehow the police officer's assistant is the hottest little blonde brunette chick. And immediately I was like, we're gonna see her naked by the end of this film. Like there
She
is
looks like that
no
character from
point for her to be in
NCIS.
this film as his assistant
Mm,
unless we're
yeah.
gonna see her naked
That's
at some
funny.
point. Which I was right. And it just seemed like the theme was like if three people or two people are in a room alone, they just like have to get naked. Like that was the whole movie. I loved it. It was my favorite movie out of all of them. Loved it. Um, just kidding about that. But oh, I actually thought it was all right in some ways, but there was a really, really bad scene where, do you remember when the bad guy runs in at the hall, right? At near the end of the movie. He has his gun drawn, and the cop comes out of the living room. His gun's not even drawn or nothing. The bad guy has his gun pointed at him, and he just runs out the front door and then runs 30 yards, gets into a field, and then starts shooting at the cop.
Yeah.
Could have shot him dead right there. Like right there. He had him right there, and he's like, I'm gonna run and then shoot him 30 yards away.
That's
See, these people are not mean.
Yeah.
See, that's what I mean when I say that, like, it doesn't make sense. It's like, not only did the movies on the whole not make sense, but little
The actors didn't do shit right.
instances,
Right.
yeah, and the little instances, little moments within the scenes that don't make any. There's no logic to, like, why would you do that unless the director just said, "Oh,
I
this
get-
is you do this."
Right. Although the whole take it as a dream thing, I can see with some of these other films. I can actually see that, how they're kind of comatose and they don't do things. But that gun thing wasn't, a dream-like thing. This wasn't this wasn't a supernatural film as much as the
No,
other ones were.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, this was just a
Um,
comedy.
Yeah, it
know.
was more like a comedy gangster thing,
It wasn't
Yeah,
even funny
exactly.
because things have to make sense to be funny.
No, I found humor in it.
There has to be some. There has to. You have to understand something in order to get humor in a
I don't
situation.
think so. It was a funny in a Benny Hill way.
Right.
This movie was a fucking
He was
dumpster
right.
fire. I hated this fucking movie. This was the shortest of them. It was an hour and 7 minutes, and it felt the
Yeah.
longest. It's so amateurish and fucking pointless. And whatever. The next time I won't bother writing any notes because there's no point, because there's not going to be any time to talk about them.
No, we
But
can talk about it. We just don't want to go for 6 hours.
just so there's a complete lack of dialogue. There's a total lack of communicating to the audience what the hell's going on. I
Yeah, it was a good time.
I wrote so much about how much I hated it.
I knew what was going on, and I had never seen it before. I mean, they explained it in the film, sort of. I mean, it was a little. The thing is, I didn't understand until later. I thought it was drugs that they had hidden in the safe, but it turned out to be jewels.
Jewels.
Yeah,
And
see,
fake
they
jewels.
don't even tell you at
And it
first
was fake jewels.
what was
Yeah,
supposed to be in the
they weren't
safe.
even real.
This-
I think too, MyKill, the one thing that could detract from someone's enjoyment of this film is the poor quality of the transfer.
Yeah,
I didn't mind it because it reminded me of being a kid trying to watch these movies late at night on TV with the antenna, trying to get them in.
Yeah.
So when I see an old movie like this and it's bad quality, it doesn't bother me. It reminds me of the good old days. But I had a feeling that this one was the one that was going to push you over the edge, MyKill, because I had no idea going in.
That's when I wrote that text, because I had watched the
Yeah.
vampire one and I kind of hated it, but then I watched this one, and this one was so much worse. And I was like, one of my notes is there aren't enough words for me to express how much I hated this movie, because it's like, what the fuck? Like, like I even said, I don't know, whatever.
No, go ahead.
No, but to interpretation, it depends on what you. It's like, whatever. It's like there should have been some warning before I, watch this movie. Like, these movies are not going to make any sense, or some, like, I don't know. It was just so terrible. My brain is like fusing. I can't even speak. It was so bad. But like every time I say something about how bad it was, it's like, oh no, it was supposed to be that way. It's like, okay, well then whatever. Obviously, all of the movies by this guy, no, not all of them, except for one, really one, mostly one. But this one in particular, this was the worst out of all of them. It almost made me not want to like You even said to me, like, on the text, like, if you don't want to do this episode, and I thought about it, I was like, well, maybe it gets better. Maybe if I watch the other movies, some of them are actually not as bad as this one. But it's just like you can't completely disregard what the audience is going to be thinking or trying. Like, there's no, I don't know.
Well, all right. So
I'm out.
watching the
That's
movie, I was a little lost too. And at about halfway through, my wife says to me, "This is a comedy, right?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I didn't get comedy out of it at all." And so finally I looked it up. She's like, "No, this is intentionally funny." And when I looked it up, it's a mix of softcore eroticism, a crime thriller, light comedy. Um, he's more Rollins was more well known for his surreal vampire horror films, but this was a
Right.
quick, low budget production meant to just cash in on the exploitation, the sexploitation market, I should say. The tone is intentionally playful and absurd, especially how the plot veers into silliness. You've got two young women frolicking nude, then getting caught up in a jewel smuggling plot. Some of the action is intentionally over the top, which that was when I was watching it. I was like, I looked at my wife. I'm like, I think you're right. I think this is intentionally because they can't be that bad, the editing includes goofy touches and melodramatic cues. So I think this was intentionally done to irritate certain members of the audience. I think it was meant to irritate the critics, really. But
Yeah.
Rollin later admitted that this and other erotic films were made quickly for money, often under a pseudonym. He didn't consider these part of his main artistic output, but he still infused his weirdness in it.
very, very student film vibe I got from both of the first two movies.
Yeah.
Very
And
much,
this was his
very
third
much like
film.
these people are just like experimenting and figuring out how to make a movie. Like they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
That's it really came across.
I think that was his intention. Bill, what are your thoughts on this?
What wasn't his intention? For it to look like a student film?
No, I think that was his intention.
Well, whether it was his intention or not, I think it was just, it's like you said, this was not a film that he made in a surreal approach. This is not a dream logic film. This is something that just, it wasn't meant to be taken seriously at all. And it was there to show some TNA. And it was sort of like, my Benny Hill comment wasn't random. I mean, that's one of the first things I thought about when I watched this movie was like, this is like almost like a Benny Hill sketch, except it's stretched out into a movie and it's not as over the top slapstick as Benny Hill. But it did sort of get slapstickish in a couple scenes. And I think it's exactly what Rigor said. He just made this, because someone needed to make some money. He and whoever hired him to do this made some money off of this movie, and it was just, it's only really notable because of who made it instead of what it actually is in and of itself.
Right. It's not laugh out loud funny. It's like sleazy with a wink,
Like, yeah.
It was intended to be a dirty movie. I mean, like, look at there were like women getting it on in the very
But
first
for me,
scene.
going into it not knowing that, like, how could I know that? I don't know this
Well,
filmmaker.
back
You have
in
to
that
watch
day,
it and
that
accept it for
genre
what
was
it
just
is.
like that.
Well, if I'm just going to accept it for what it is, then what's the fucking point of even doing the show and discussing them? Like, I'm just going to like, oh, well, that's how it is.
Well,
And
we're discussing
well,
it now. I mean,
I know, but like, I feel
I think back in the day, they were trying really hard. There was a small group of, producers that were trying hard to kind of cross eroticism and, legit films, like cross them and make like kind of like a hybrid film like that, and see
Yes.
if they could, break the mold.
especially
I
at
think
this
I
time.
think that was happening a lot in the 70s.
Yeah, this time period was I mean, I don't think this was informed by porno chic. It was in the era of porno chic too, though. Like the success of Deep Throat spawned a
Right.
sudden interest in
That's
what
what
you
I'm getting at.
what
Right.
could you do in an X-rated movie, and would ordinary audiences accept it? Like, would they go to it, or
Right.
would it remain sort of like a brown paper bag sort of pornography thing? Like, could they cross this over into
Yeah.
other ways? So yeah, I think that's 100% right. And also, he's a European filmmaker, not an American film,
Right.
but I
Which is
mean, the
even worse
market,
than it was here. Right.
and the market was, probably they were a little more liberal about
Exactly.
sexuality being depicted. Maybe not England, which tended to edit out a lot of that stuff, but other countries probably
France,
were.
Italy, Spain.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
it was okay as long as there were naked women in it. It was okay.
Exactly.
Right. And you don't have to like this movie, MyKill.
Yeah,
I didn't really love it. It was my least favorite of
I
the
just
four.
feel like an asshole because I keep talking about how much I hated it, and you guys keep talking about like the fact that there's a whole community of people who will consider this guy's work actually good, and I can't fathom that in
Not at
my
all.
head at all. Like it's experimental, and it's not supposed to be a clear narrative.
well, yeah, nobody's saying that Schoolgirl Hitchhikers is worthy of, deep textural analysis.
But as we move on to the next
Yeah.
film, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that there's one film in this series that's actually good and that like actually follows a narrative like structure, and the characters, the dialogue, there's less, like it makes sense, and like he can do it. I guess he was just choosing not to do it in the other cases, and
Right.
I didn't get the memo. I was like,
I get
you know,
that.
So let's get into the newspaper ads and let me know if you guys can see these. I think. Can you see them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think
That
you
doesn't look
can't see
erotic at
them.
all.
I'm not sure. Um,
It doesn't.
there was no hitchhiking in the movie.
I know.
Right,
We
exactly.
we're only told that they were
Zero
hitchhiking.
hitchhiking.
What was the one we
Schoolgirl
watched? Oh,
Hitchhikers.
we watched the movie Torso. Nary a torso to be found in that film. All right, so we get that one, and then here's a poster that I found.
Wow,
There's
that looks
the
like
CSI girl.
little
Yeah,
hot.
Yeah, I know what you mean by that with the
The
with
goth girl.
her hair and the way she's dressed. Yeah.
the one on the left in the purple.
No, the one with
Um,
the goofy pigtail things on her head.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
you don't know who I mean?
No, I don't watch NCIS. So
Oh, CSI, I think she's on.
I don't
I'm
watch
not sure. She's like a goth girl. She's a forensic expert.
Yeah, she used to be heavy and then lost weight.
Oh, I
You
don't know. I
talking
didn't
about
know
that
that.
actress
I don't
with the
know.
pigtails on CSI?
Yeah.
I don't know. So they got the game Schoolgirls Play, Should a
Maybe
Schoolgirl
it was
Tell, and
NCIS.
Schoolgirl Hitchhiker. So we've got a triple schoolgirl feature here tonight. The Chinese professionals
Schoolgirl,
do
should
their
a
triple
schoolgirl tell? Should a schoolgirl tell?
That
I.
was, that was a pretty profitable subgenre, the schoolgirl
Tell
films.
what?
These were,
Right.
sexploitation films that a lot of them were German imports. And there was a series in Germany called the Schoolgirl Report, and they just had numbers. It was like the same title. There was just a different number. And a lot of those movies ended up recut and distributed in the United States under titles like this.
Right. Interesting.
Beast in the Cellar is listed on the
Yeah.
bottom left. Which one was that one?
It was on the same bill as the Blood on Satan's Claw. And it was
Okay.
two sisters who had a deformed brother in the basement or something. You know, one of those gothic horrors.
Right. We got what's his name? George Romero's Martin, his vampire movie.
Love it.
That's cool. All right, and then we've got Silent Movie with Mel Brooks. I saw that, and Return of the Pink Panther. Oh, and Rattlers. I love Rattlers. That's a fun movie.
Me too.
The Pom Pom Girls. I remember
Love
that.
that one too.
I remember that.
That was
We
like
had
a.
Jennifer Ashley from the Pom Pom Girls on our show. She was awesome.
Oh wow. Sex Freedom in Germany. What else we have on the left here? Return of a Man Called Horse. That was disturbing. Rattlers. Sex Freedom in Germany. Okay, Dirty Dolls. And we got time for movies. A remake, last remake of BoJack. That's what Marty Feldman. I saw that in the movies too.
The Van.
Was that Marty Feldman, you said?
Yeah,
Oh, shit.
yeah.
Is that a horror movie, The Van?
No, it's the
Oh.
sequel to The Car. The Van.
Seriously?
No.
No,
Oh,
I think it's like like teenagers with a van or something, right?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
like it's sort of like a, teen sex comedy. What's the movie
okay.
I'm thinking? American Graffiti.
Oh, I
type
thought it was
thing.
like, like the van the serial killer always drives around in, kind of
Right.
like that kind
Only
of van.
that one.
Watch out for the van. All right, and this one, it has nothing to do with tonight's film,
Satan's cheerleaders.
but I just loved these ads.
Oh yeah,
Meat
Satan's
Cleaver
Cheerleader is great.
Is this a
Yeah.
meat cleaver massage?
Massacre.
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 Massage is better.
Massage.
It says it looks like massage on my phone.
Massacre.
Yeah, meat
Oh,
cleaver massage.
Have you guys seen Meat Cleaver Massacre?
No.
Can't remember if I have or not. I probably
It's-
have.
It's the one that Christopher Lee was tricked into being into.
Oh yes.
Because he recorded an introduction for a totally different movie, and then somebody bought it and used it for Meat Cleaver Massacre, which is a movie about a guy who is in a hospital in a coma, and he's taking revenge through telepathy on people who have
Yes.
wronged him. And I don't
Oh,
think there's a
wow.
Meat Cleaver murder in it.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
you did see that.
I don't
That's a
really
good
remember.
premise, though. I like that premise. That's
You're
cool.
gonna hate the movie, trust me.
Probably.
He got it. He really got it. And I think this. Oh yeah, Schoolgirl Hitchhikers is there, and this. I just wanted you guys to see what else was on. Excuse me. I remember Hawamps, but I never saw that.
Romps.
Homps. Down below though, you've got Drive-In, Gone in 60 Seconds, which I think that's the original Corman film from the 60s for the 50s, right, Bill?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's probably the same one.
Yeah, because I don't remember. I think the next one is the remake with Nicolas Cage, which was from a few years ago. But then Grizzly, that's a fun movie. That's a William Girdler, right?
Yes. Love Grizzly. Love
We may have to
Girdler.
do William Girdler on
I've
here.
heard of that.
There's a lot like Embryo from that era too that we could do a whole 4 films on that.
Embryo.
18 Feet of Terror.
Yeah.
We should do Attack of the Killer Tomato.
Oh God, I don't
I
know.
like that movie.
Maybe. Oops. All right, here we go. There's another one with Schoolgirl Hitchhikers and the games schoolgirls play. Well, these schoolgirls just
It
busy.
blows my mind. This is such a short movie. I'm surprised that it even played in theaters because it was only like an hour long.
It was like an hour and 9 minutes, right?
Hour and
Well, the print that survives may be one that was issued later that had more footage cut out of it, because they deliberately cut them down to about an hour so that they could show like 4 or 5 films on one program.
Oh, I
And a
see.
lot of that footage is missing now.
I see. Oh, maybe that's part of the reason it doesn't it makes even less sense than it would have otherwise. Maybe there were scenes that were probably
It's
not.
possible,
They're probably all
yeah.
sex scenes.
Yeah.
They're probably all sex scenes that got cut out. I'm like, maybe there was meaningful dialogue. No, probably not.
So this one, we've got Abby up here. We talked about Abby when we did some blaxploitation films, didn't we? The
Definition
Black
of her.
Exorcist.
Yeah, I think we talked about Abby.
Yeah, that was. I remember all of us liking that one.
I love Abby.
Schoolgirl Hitchhikers with.
It's really a shame that we do not have a Blu-ray of Abby, and all we have is that shitty 16mm transfer from
I know.
being all washed out.
Deep Throat. I brought that up in The Devil and Miss Jones just to show you guys the how these X-rated films were everywhere, and Deep Throat actually played in me, MyKill, and Owen in our hometown Stoneham. There was a movie theater in the square, and that was the last movie that played there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Now
what
it's
year?
now it's a bougie
it's a
theater.
Yeah.
like Broadway.
I forget whatever year Deep Throat came out. It was what, 73, 74?
76.
Well, this movie was Schoolgirl Hitchhikers was 73, so it would have to be 73. Maybe 76. I don't know. They could have played it later. A lot of
I
these
don't know.
played later. I have a
I'm not,
picture of it somewhere.
despite what you've heard from me, I'm not a porn expert.
Then why are you shrouded in darkness?
I know you look like you're trying to hide your identity.
Yeah, you need your voice to be disguised. Hello.
You're testifying against a large corporation.
Yes.
Moonlighting
Pharmaceutical.
Lives. All right, we've got a few more here. Towering Inferno and Earthquake. Look at that, playing side by side. I would run to one, and then I would drive to the other side of town to see the other one.
Really?
I would if I could.
Oh, not I would as in I did, but I would as in I
Right.
would.
If I was old enough to
Uh,
drive back then.
I see.
1973. I
Teenage
think
sex kitten.
yeah.
No shit.
Pretty straightforward.
That's my second favorite movie.
Teenage sex kitten. All right, I'm gonna stop the share on this, and let's get back to my notes here.
Oh, I'm dark because I'm outside. Huh?
Yeah,
You're
you're
super dark. Oh, that's why, because you're outside. Ah.
I'm outside smoking. I can't smoke cigarettes inside.
Mm.
you bastard. This is another movie that had minimal dialogue. Film contains sparse and often awkward dialogue, relying more on visuals and mood. Um,
Mood.
you know,
Mood.
like they say that even though this was like a quickie production, you can see Rollins' fingerprints. He's got, long takes, coastal ruins, female protagonists, a real disconnect between sex and violence and narrative logic.
Mhm.
Schoolgirl Hitchhikers, I found this online, may seem like a standard piece of 70s exploitation. It's laced with strange tonal shifts, subversive reversals, and Rollins' distinct brand of erotic fatalism. But beneath the sleaze lies a warped fairy tale about freedom, cruelty, and vengeance, executed with both haste and idiosyncratic flair. I think it was just a cheap money-making scheme, really.
My
Yeah.
first note that I wrote about it was this movie is only an hour and 7 minutes, and we just spent 5 minutes watching them climb over the wall at the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah,
I said the same thing. The beginning, I was like, I just watched 10 minutes of this movie, and all they did was walk through the woods,
Yeah.
some credits, and climb over a wall and walk through a door.
right.
Yeah.
It's
Not
like we're
only, like you
12
said,
minutes into it.
right. Yeah, that a huge percentage of the movie is gone and nothing has happened. They're just going over.
Right.
And like you were talking about a scene where there's a woman walking through the woods. That I think that was in this one, where just like and Roger, you were just talking about wide shots
Yeah.
that he does. There were a couple of times in where I couldn't really see what the character was doing. It like a big wide shot of like somebody from a distance doing something, and I'm like, okay, can you cut to a closer shot so I can see what's happening?
Yeah, yeah.
He seemed to really, enjoy that. And then she's walking through
You
the
know
woods,
what's
and I'm thinking, where is she going? What's
it's funny. Like I said, I watched this one first, then I watched Shivers second, and it wasn't until towards the end of Shivers that I got because I was kind of taking notes and doing research at the same time and looking for newspaper ads, and then I realized by the end of the second movie that I was watching, I was like, wow, this movie has a lot of spots where I didn't have to stop and go, oh, what's going on? Because it was like nothing was going on.
I
Yeah.
hit the 30-second fast forward so many times during these movies because I knew they were just going to walk through the woods for 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So, MyKill, why don't you give us your final thoughts and any other notes about this film? Feel free to, you could say as much as you want.
Um, yeah, all right, I didn't like the fact that I didn't know there was going to be so much sex in the movie, and I was really thrown at the beginning when the two girls have sex, that the guy and the girl have sex, then the other girl comes down, and then they all have sex. Like the story hasn't even started yet. Like they just went into the house, and it's been
It's just
like
a three.
half an hour. And I was just like, what the hell? That's when I was starting to realize, okay, this is not like, was there even a script, or did they just make this movie up as they went along? Lack of dialogue. They didn't even ask the blonde girl, any questions while they were torturing her. Isn't that the point of torturing somebody, to like get information out of them? Like you ask them questions and then you give them pain, and no. I wrote sometimes there isn't even a clear sense of where they are or how much time has passed, which I found frustrating. Blah, 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 blah. I talked about how bad it was in great detail. Very little is made clear to the audience, and what I wrote was that's your primary job as a director, communicate with your audience, but let us know what's happening. But apparently he deliberately withheld some of that, which I didn't realize he was doing on purpose. I thought he was doing it because he was too stupid to know better. I didn't, because he sucked as a filmmaker. I didn't know he was doing it by choice. Um, these people spend most of the movie trying to figure out who took the jewels from the safe, but the person who actually did isn't even introduced as a character until the movie is almost over, which I thought was dumb. There's no real story here. Yeah, I just, yeah, I just, I guess I must be like a very conventionally minded person when it comes to movies. I expect. Oh, one thing I wrote was if you're listening to a song and the lyrics don't make sense, you can still enjoy the song. But if you're watching a movie and nothing makes sense, it's impossible to get any enjoyment out of it. That was my one of my things that I wrote, which is I guess it's not impossible, but like for me, it's impossible. I just was like, I don't know what like yeah. I don't know enough about any of these people, where they come from, what they want, why they're doing what they're doing. You know, like I'm trying to, piece together. So it felt really long. It's, out of the four movies that we watched, I hated it. I hated this one, hands down, hated it. And it was the shortest, but it felt the longest to me.
Fair enough. Owen, final thoughts.
A lot of the same sentiment. It was a exploitation piece. You could tell that right away. No character development, and it just was, very choppy and all that. And it was like you just knew that every single girl you saw in it was gonna be naked. Like the only you could I would say consistent theme of any plot was, hey, there's a hot chick in this movie. I'm gonna see her naked. You just knew that from the beginning. It's one of those. But like he said, it's tough, you can enjoy good music. That was a great quote. You can enjoy good music with crazy lyrics, but it's tough to enjoy a movie that you don't know what the hell's going on. Because like there's zero character development. Like none. And it's called Hitchhikers, and they don't even hitchhike once.
I know.
I don't know. I don't know. I strangely enjoyed it though. Like, like one of those, turn my brain off and just watch some shit. But it wasn't gory like we use, this is supposed to be Fright Night, and it wasn't that kind of movie.
Right.
Like nobody actually really dies, and nobody dies in a gory way, that's for sure. So not a horror movie per se, more of a strange, mobster movie, whatnot, sexual exploitation movie. But you can tell that it did seem very it seemed student when the first 10 minutes I was like, is this like his first film ever, like his high school film, like a student film? That's what I was thinking, because I'll admit the rest of them are like apples and oranges compared to this one, at least production value and things like that. So yeah, but it is what it is. It was a fun ride.
Nice. Bill.
This is definitely the one that I like the least out of the four that we're talking about tonight. There's not much in this movie that really held my interest. So, it was just a little throwaway film probably that somebody wanted made, and it probably made some money. So whatever. If I was at the drive-in, I wouldn't have cared if this was like in between two movies I wanted to see, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
seek it out on my own.
Right, right. I agree. I don't think I'll ever watch this one again. This was also my least favorite of the four. It's not for everyone. It's, it's definitely exploitation. I was kind of waiting for the horror throughout. I'm like, all right, when's someone gonna die? There's mobsters here. But I think it's worth a view if you're a Jean Rollin completist. So that's all I'm gonna say about that. We're
And
gonna take
only under those circumstances is it worth a review.
right, yeah,
Under that specific circumstance, if you absolutely have to see everything he's ever made, then okay. But
right.
otherwise,
You've seen
avoid
them all.
avoid this like the plague. Or if you want to see boobies, then watch it.
That's funny. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we are going to talk about the next film, Grapes of Death from 1978. No,
Which is
not the
actually
Grapes of
good.
Wrath. It's Grapes of Death.
I
Yes.
liked this one. This one's good.
And these films are all, at least as of this recording, they're all on Tubi. So I'm going to share this, and I'm going to step away. And we're back. Let's get my notes up. My lighting sucks in here. I apologize. So, folks at home who are listening, I apologize not only for the lighting in my camera sucking, but also the fact that we are not actually live tonight. So I'm still kind of pissed about that. But whatevs. All right. And we're almost all back. Just awaiting Bill. And did everyone have a good break?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God. All right, well, I guess I'll just start getting into it. We are going to talk next about The Grapes of Death, 1978. When I first heard that title, man, I was like, you got to be kidding me, right? But it's really a translation of Le Raisin de la Mort. So, The Grapes of
And
Death.
it makes sense.
Yes, it does. And it's actually, now that I think about it, it's actually a very clever title because it makes you think. You walk in with a preconceived notion, and it's like not at all. So this premiered in the U.S. in the late 70s to early 80s, and it was often titled Pesticide.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. So, excuse me. The synopsis is, excuse me. I think I breathed in my coffee. In The Grapes of Death, Jean Rollin shifts from his usual dreamlike eroticism into more grounded but no less surreal horror. The story follows Elizabeth, a young woman traveling by train through rural France to visit her fiancé Michel, who manages a vineyard. Her journey takes a dark turn when a fellow passenger begins convulsing, his face grotesquely infected with boils. He soon attacks and kills a woman, forcing Elizabeth to flee the train to the countryside. As she stumbles from village to village, Elizabeth discovers that the locals are being transformed into violent, disfigured maniacs. These quote unquote zombies, however, are not undead, but infected humans driven mad by a pesticide used on local grape crops, poison introduced by Michel's vineyard. The infection causes the skin to rot and the brain to lose reason, resulting in uncontrollable homicidal urges. Elizabeth witnesses murder after murder in isolated hamlets and farms, blind devotion, gruesome mutilations, and even betrayal by those she believes might help her. Along the way, she meets a woman searching for her infected lover and briefly takes refuge with the mysterious axe wielding young woman who seems oddly immune to the horror around her. When Elizabeth finally finds Michel, she realizes he's responsible for distributing the contaminated wine that sparked the plague. The confrontation between them is tragic, with Elizabeth forced to choose between love and morality in a world collapsing into madness. Bleak and atmospheric, The Grapes of Death blends environmental horror, body horror, and Rollins' signature visual poetry. The film trades vampires for infected humans, but retains his obsession with beauty amid decay, and ends with a haunting sense of doom and fatalism. So, Owen, why don't you give us your first impressions of this movie?
I mean, a very dated movie, but I loved it. I mean, I thought it was a good movie. Like if it It had a lot of what Gene Rollins does in his movies, which is some drawn out, walking scenes with you're just looking at scenery more than anything else. Um, Bad acting, reaction to things, some inconsistencies, and it's dated, but it had the best like message out of all these movies. Like it had they made you think more than the rest of them, I think. Although Dead Girl is pretty good, we'll get into that. Um, like at the end, like it's not your typical horror movie where she had to choose, you know what I mean? And you wonder was, they gave you a little Easter egg. I don't know if we do spoilers that much here, but
Yeah, we
they
do.
gave you an Easter egg about how women aren't, don't show the effects as well as the men do. So you wonder what she's up to at the end of this movie, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it. I liked it a lot. But you saw a lot of the good and bad of Gene Rollins in this movie.
Yeah. Yeah. MyKill?
I also loved it. I thought this was out of the four movies we watched, this was the best one, hands down. And it was such a huge relief after watching Schoolgirl Hitchhikers, hating it like I did. And
Right.
then going like I went like 10 days without watching any of the movies, thinking like I don't even know if I can handle watching another one of this guy's movies. But then I watched this one and it was great. Almost every single complaint I had about Schoolgirl Hitchhikers was like undone in this movie. Like everything was better. Everything was done better in this movie, and I was so happy. I was so happy. And it actually was, like I didn't only like it because I was relieved by the contrast between it and the previous movie. It actually was good on its own merits. Like I
Right.
actually really liked this one. So
Nice. Bill, this wasn't a first time viewing for you, was it? Excuse me.
No, in fact, this movie was so hard to find. Obviously, I didn't know anything about it in the 70s. Nobody did if you were in America. And I didn't read about it until later. I mean, I guess, yeah, it must have been on the internet. So I was looking up movies, and we're talking like, 1997, 1998, like that internet.
Yeah.
It wasn't quite as easy to find stuff
No.
even then. Excuse me. So I had to hunt this down and order it on a bootleg VHS because there was no way to get this in the US. So I really sought after this film because I was really into zombie movies at that point. And I was like, okay, I want to see like every zombie movie that I missed. And I knew this one was out there lurking, and I'm like, okay, I got to see The Grapes of Death. And it was so that makes it special for me because after I saw it, I was like, wow, that was not like any other movie that I ever saw except The Crazies. That it was that same
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
zombie movie as The Crazies, and that's
Yeah.
probably the closest analog you could find to Grapes of Death. But I think it's pretty groovy, actually. I dig it.
It also it made me think of was it I Eat Your Skin or was it I Drink Your Blood? One of those.
I Drink Your Blood.
Yeah, with the rabid pie.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
Eat Your Skin was like a really boring black and white film.
that's right. Yeah, they were often on a double feature, but yeah,
like
it
a
was
rabid pie.
yeah, it's this pie
Oh,
gets injected with rabies, and these group of hippies eat it, and
a
they
meat
just go
pie.
meat pie. Yeah,
Oh, I see.
and they go on a rampage. It's awesome. It's fucking batshit crazy. I love it.
Oh my
We're gonna
God.
do that one of these days. But yeah, this one I really love this one too. I you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the films of Armando D'Ossorio too, who did the Tombs of the
Yeah.
Blind Dead and even like the had the feel of the second one. Um, very, very 70s Euro trash. I loved it. So
Yeah.
um
Similar backgrounds too, like the places where this movie takes, where the scenes happen. They're these desolate places with houses made out of stone that don't even look, they look like they've been abandoned for
yeah,
30 years
All
or
these
more.
movies, all these movies look like that.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's actually nice. It's actually a good aesthetic.
You go in on the inside and it's all cozy in there, and
Yeah.
you're like, wait, what house are they in now? It's not the
Exactly.
one I just saw.
The outside looks like ruins, and the inside is beautiful.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't have any graphics for this movie. But yeah, and it's considered France's first quote unquote zombie movie, except it's not obviously not corpses. Um, it's just environmental fears. I mean, DDT was a big thing back then. That was the poison we were throwing on everything, and that's what made the tarantulas huge in Kingdom of the Spiders, and um, with so many other movies where DDT created ecological.
He froze.
Wasn't it
There
The
you
Living
go.
Dead at Manchester Morgue that DDT caused the zombie outbreak in that one too?
No, that was a machine that they had
Oh, Bill,
created.
I think you muted.
No,
Can you?
We can't hear you.
I can hear him.
Yeah, I think something happened with your
Can-
camera.
No,
Think
me
you were-
too.
Wait a minute,
got
I
a
can't
little
hear
pause.
anyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll wait until Rigor can
everyone
rewrite
mute
our
and
ship.
unmute your microphone.
Can you hear me?
How about me?
Check
No.
1 2. This is like the
Hello, hello.
strangest night ever.
Hello. What the hell going on?
Fudge. Let me let me
I keep forgetting we're not
Can
live,
you
so we don't
can you
have to
guys
be.
hear me?
You
I
can
know, I
edit
forget
it.
that.
You
Yeah,
can hear
we can
me?
hear. Yes,
All
we
right,
can
I
hear
can't
you.
hear any of you. Let me change that. Test 1 2.
Hello.
There we go.
Hello.
All right, I can hear you all now. So
Now you can
anyway,
hear us.
isn't it the Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, Bill? That
No, it was not DDT in The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. It was a machine that they had created that used ultrasonic waves
that's right.
to kill insects, and then it had the side effect of resurrecting the recently dead.
Different form of pesticide.
Right. Another couple movies this reminded me of too that it influenced, I would imagine, is Shivers, which we covered, and Rabid. Which I don't know if we did. Did we do Rabid?
Rabbit. Those rabid dogs.
Yeah. Well, no, we did do Rabid Dogs, but I think we
Yeah,
did
not
Rabid.
thinking of the same thing.
Shivers was the one where the apartment building that's like a city, right? And it's
Starliner Towers.
Starliner Towers, and then there's like this sex. I don't know. Everyone just goes sex crazy. There's some kind
There's
of
a parasite gets in their
That's
water,
right.
and it's like a worm that travels from it's not even in their water. I shouldn't have said that. It was like a sexually transmitted parasite.
Right.
And once you had it, you became sexually voracious in all sorts of strange ways. And you would pass the worm on to somebody else, and then eventually you were a mindless zombie at some point. A sex zombie.
MyKill, you covered that with us, right?
I think I have.
I think I did.
Yeah.
I think I did.
And Rabid was the one with Marilyn Chambers that she had the vampire teeth in her armpit, right?
It wasn't a vampire teeth, it was a penis.
That's right.
It was like a penis with a spear on the end of it, and it emerged from this vaginal opening in her armpit. It was all kinds of fucked up. And
I've definitely seen that.
it drew blood from it was like used to suck blood from her victims, and she didn't kill them, but everybody that she did it to ended up with this virulent form of rabies, and they would be
Yeah.
like a zombie within like 3 days. They would just be like this mindless zombie out biting people. Loved it.
That's funny. That's so funny.
Classic Cronenberg. It was his second theatrical feature.
Cronenberg.
Shivers was
Yes.
the first.
Yeah. Yeah, Cronenberg's had a lot of good ones. So yeah, this movie ties into like fears of that. The zombie boom was really big too. So let's see. I guess we did. We did first impressions.
Can I read my notes on this one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I promise I'll do it quickly.
It's okay.
So I wrote these as I was watching the movie. Not I didn't like wait until it was over to write them. I wrote them as I was watching it. So title makes sense this time. 10 minutes in, the dialogue is already better, the acting is better. 30 minutes in, things make linear sense so far. Better cinematography in this film, more interesting variety of shots and angles adds to the drama. Actually feels like a horror movie, strong sense of danger and dread. Thank you. Finally, there seems to be a synergy between the director and the writer. There are tons of direct logical connections between what the characters say and what happens in the scenes, and vice versa. This was terribly lacking in Schoolgirl Hitchhikers, which it's like night and day. By comparison, The Grapes of Death is a masterpiece. The ending is a bit strange, but works nonetheless. Main character desperately wants to be with her fiance, but at the same time, she's lost her grip on reality somewhat. No gratuitous sex or nudity in this movie, thank God. Both moments of nudity had reasons related to the plot. At the beginning, the father tears off his daughter's shirt to reveal the lesion on the side of her body. See, you're infected too. Later on, the blonde woman gets naked to show the two guys that she has no marks, no mutating spots anywhere on her body, and therefore she's not lying to them and they should help her escape. There was a point to the nudity both times. Yay.
There was. There actually was.
Which for me was a big plus. I mean, I know a lot of people don't give a shit, and for some of these movies, like that wasn't the point, But in this case, I was really glad. Like when it did happen, it was like, oh, okay, that wasn't pointless. That was, they did that for a
Right.
reason.
Yeah.
I meant to point this out, I think in the first movie, and this is I don't want this to take us too far off on a tangent, but it could. In my opinion, the
You can always
Terminator,
cut it out.
that's true. The Terminator is the only movie in history where the sex scene is actually vital to the plot of the film. Am I wrong?
They didn't have to show it.
Well,
Well,
it wasn't
I mean,
gratuitous.
I
It was the
mean,
whole plot hinged, but you had to see that they had a union.
yeah, but I mean,
I don't know if it's the only movie in history, but I
yeah,
would
but
have to like
Roger,
go through a
Well,
catalog.
that
every
and
porn,
Emmanuel Goes to London, or
But I mean,
every
what?
porno movie in history needs sex, right?
I'm talking mainstream movies.
That's the point of it. But
I
yeah,
think
without the sex scene, yeah, the loop,
Yeah,
the
Yeah,
time loop.
logic
Yeah.
is lost. Yeah.
that's
yeah,
something
the
that
whole
we didn't address.
sex sells is big.
What didn't we
What is
address?
it?
Sex sells is big, especially back then.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All the executives in the 60s, 70s, 80s are like sex sells, sex sells, sex sells,
Yeah.
Well, in what quantities too? Because I think Michael mentioned earlier, he said, if I wanted to see sex, I would just go watch a porn. A lot of
Right.
people wouldn't watch a porno. There are a lot of people who just clam up at the idea of sex, especially in the 70s.
Yeah,
Like
no,
they cannot express it. People are made through various means to feel very guilty about expressing
right,
their sexuality,
right.
especially in this culture. And to have that presented to you in the form of a porn would feel like going over the line. But in movies like this,
Ah.
it was
You're
just
not
sort of like,
crossing the line.
yeah, like, well,
Yeah.
I didn't go to see the titties. I went to see, it was a
Mr.
comedy.
Winky.
Schoolgirls, Hitchhikers. I
It
thought
was
it was
just
going to be a funny movie.
yeah.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying more now. Okay. Yeah.
So I just want to talk about the cast a little bit here too. We've got Marie-Georges Pascal, who played Elizabeth. She was mainly known for her TV work. Felix
She
Martin.
killed herself, right?
Say what?
She committed suicide.
The
Who did?
actress?
I think so. It was either her or the Living Dead girl star.
Oh, I don't know. Oh,
Yeah, you should look that up. One of these two, tragically, in 1985.
I will.
Yeah.
Oh, you remember the year, but you don't remember which one? What kind of reporter are you?
Yeah, I don't. That's right. Yeah, I know. Isn't that funny?
Oh my God.
I just
So
remember I was 10 years old.
Felix Martin, who played Michelle, he was in OSS 117. Takes a vacation if you've followed those Euro spy films. Um, and then we've got Brigitte Lahaye. She played the blind girl. She was a former porn star, adult film star, who became one of Rollins's most iconic muses. She was in I Am Frigid. Why? in 1972.
I just programmed an ad for that on Groovy Doom. I think it already ran.
Did you really?
Yeah,
Why?
I am frigid. Why? Well, the reason is actually pretty disturbing.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Oh.
I only read the synopsis. I never saw the film.
Didn't
Lord.
Jean Rollins actually work with what's her name? Bridget Bardot,
He may
that
have.
huge actress in the 60s.
Yeah, I
Speaking of the
don't think it was
Beatles, we
Bridget
talked about the
Bardot.
Beatles earlier. They loved her. Bridget Bardot.
I don't know.
Or maybe she was in a movie with one of these actresses that was in one of his.
Maybe.
That might be it. That might be what I'm thinking of.
I'm just looking up Jean Rollin. Let's see.
No, I think one of the actresses in these movies worked with Bridget Bardot.
Night of the Hunted. Oh, that sounds good. It's one of his movies. Just looking real quick here because I wanted to see if we can find which. Actually, I probably could. I could just do it real quick in this.
You can cut it for time later.
Oh
Yeah, I'm
Oops.
just spitballing here.
Oh my God.
I couldn't believe how good this movie was. I was so relieved after watching the previous one that I hated so much. I know I said that already, but I was so like, wow, this is actually good. This actually makes
You
sense.
know, at
It's
first,
it's visually more interesting. It's
yeah,
it's there's more dialogue to tell me what's going on, and everything is one thing leads to another, leads to another. It's like,
at first in my notes I didn't like the inconsistency in the um like mental illness that the people
mm,
displayed after getting
mhm,
infected. It didn't make sense. Some were like remorseful, some weren't,
mm,
it was just weird. Like it didn't have any kind of logic to it.
yeah. Well,
But the
maybe they
more
were
I
just
got
at
into the
different stages,
movie,
maybe.
they kind of explained that. Like then I figure if people are gonna have mental illness from like eating or drinking something, every person's different, so every person's mental illness is gonna be a little different,
Right,
Right.
yeah. It
right?
was affecting them in different ways. And even the one
Right,
woman, she
right,
didn't even show any symptoms on
right.
her
So
body.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's
I just
right.
thought it's not a plot hole. Like I
Yeah,
figured it out. I was like,
They
all
didn't
right,
know
that's
what it
not a
was.
plot hole.
Yeah. You can't call it a plot hole because there's nothing's really explained about it. It's just, well,
yeah.
Exactly.
it came from this pesticide or this, yeah, it was a pesticide.
Right.
Right.
And I,
Maybe.
I like that this movie had it was sort of a nice balance with his surreal side, his surreal way of doing things with realism. It was
Yep.
visceral and violent, and I think it was very realistic.
Right.
So, but it still had that dreamlike quality that
I
didn't
love the
go away.
part. Yeah, I love the part where she goes into the town and the one guy is trying to convince her that he's harmless, and she gets in the car and he's like bashing his head against the window and he breaks the window.
Yeah.
She like
Yeah.
shoots him, like that whole scene. That was scary. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, that was a good scene.
But in all his other movies, she wouldn't have shot him. In this
Mm,
movie, she finally does the right thing and shoots him.
yeah,
Like, you know what I mean? Like, when I finally watched this movie, it was like, finally, like, they do something smart instead of just sit
yeah.
there and panic and let them kill him.
Right.
Right.
Um, Let me see. I don't think I have any whoops. Hold on. Okay. I don't think I have any newspaper ads for this movie, right, Bill? Yeah.
Yeah. This never played theatrically outside of Italy or France. Sorry.
Right.
I don't think so anyway. I mean, I tried my darndest to find anything in the paper about it. It just,
Yeah.
as far as we knew, it didn't exist.
There's just this one poster here that I'll show you guys.
I think that's the craziest thing about this movie is that it doesn't get it or it didn't get more exposure because it is a very well made film.
It is. It's
Ah,
not bad.
Yeah.
that's a fun. I like that picture. That's funny.
Especially
It's
for
so
the
bizarre.
time.
What'd you say, Owen?
I said, especially for the time,
Oh yes, yeah.
like that. It's not a bad movie at all.
There weren't a lot of zombie movies at the time. Dawn of the Dead was just about to come out. I'm sure the movie was made before Dawn was finished, probably.
It wasn't
So
really zombie, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, there wasn't much reason to do a zombie movie in the early 70s, or at least other filmmakers didn't think that. Because outside of a couple notable ones like Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things and Dead of Night, um, you know, Malatesta's Carnival of Blood in 73, there weren't a lot of Romero type zombies anyway in films. And, well, I neglected to mention the Crazies, the Crazies itself, which is probably the direct descendant. This is a direct descendant of the Crazies, but um, there's a little bit of everything, because just because he was inspired by these films doesn't mean that he's,
Ripping
he
them off.
obviously, yeah,
Right.
he didn't feel trapped by that.
Right.
He came up with his own sort of thing to do.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That ending though was good. It's like pretty much everybody died except the girl.
Yeah.
But is she infected?
Right.
I
That's
You
felt
have
like
to
she was
wonder that.
infected. Yeah.
He
We don't
drank the
know.
wine with that chick that said she doesn't drink wine. Remember? She
Yeah.
took one sip. I'm sorry, am
Hmm.
I spoiling?
I
I
love when the guy
noticed
kills
that.
the fiance and she immediately shoots the guy. Like, even though she knew her fiance was infected, she immediately shoots the guy that killed her fiance. Like, fuck
Like
you,
she
man.
started acting like someone who was infected.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, when they drank the wine, it wasn't the red wine. It was like champagne or something that they had
No, no,
there.
no. Remember the chick the chick that was infected, but you didn't know in the beginning.
Yeah, the blonde woman.
The hospital. Remember, she goes, "I never drink wine, but I will here at this occasion." She took a sip, and so did our protagonist. What's her name? She took
Okay.
a sip as well.
Elizabeth,
And it was
yeah.
red wine.
Mm.
Hmm.
You'll see it. You'll watch it. It's right when she first meets we end up knowing the evil lady, but you don't think so in the beginning because she's like dressed in white and
Yeah,
gorgeous.
she doesn't look messed up.
She's not messed up, right?
Doesn't look, yeah.
But something's up, like because the way she's acting. Yeah,
She seemed totally normal to me.
yeah. But like when she says, "I never drink," but she drinks, and she takes a sip. The protagonist does too.
Mm.
Yeah, I
Watch it
think you're
again, and
right.
you'll see it. So I'm telling you, I think she's infected.
Well, that's what
I
I
think there's a
thought when the
hidden
movie
message
ended.
in this movie that some people might not see. That might be borderline, I don't want to say genius.
I thought either she's either infected or she's just been through such a intense shock in the last 24 hours or whatever that she's starting to lose her grip on reality, and she wants to be with her fiance so strongly that she doesn't
But
care
she does drink
about
the
the
wine.
infection. Okay, we get it. You said it 9 times. We
I
understand.
did.
She drank the wine. I understand. Maybe if I didn't pick up on that when I watched it, but maybe yeah, I'm sure you're right. She drank it. So, but they never showed any lesions on her. Like, they never showed her actually realizing, oh shit, I'm infected. So it's
Right.
almost like there's a shred of doubt at the end that she's letting the blood drip on her face and everything and doesn't
Yeah.
care.
Well, she's
Right.
gonna be infected. I mean,
Infected or she's lost her mind. Yeah.
that was the I think the point of that end shot was like she is infected because she got that blood in her mouth.
Yeah.
Right. Something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Which that reminds me, I want to see that fucking 28 years later. I can't believe that they did that. That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't either. I want to see it really bad.
Yeah. I saw the first one. I didn't. That's the third one, right?
Yes, yeah.
I
So
never saw the
28
second.
days, 28 months, and now 28 years.
A week. I think the second one was
Years.
weeks.
Was it weeks?
The
Maybe.
zombies are running a little slower.
But I heard
other-
that they kind of skipped over weeks, that like the new one doesn't really acknowledge that the second one was part of the continuity. It's sort of,
Really?
Oh,
I don't know. I heard something on a YouTube review that they said that they don't really either they just don't mention the second movie at all, or they don't pay attention to the second movie. They just talk about the first one, whatever. I don't know.
Not much canon to it.
Interesting. So, anyways, yeah, Grapes of Death. It's very unique in Jean Rollin's filmography because it's one of the few films where he like fully embraces the graphic gore and the social horror, but he also gets to kind of use his familiar theme tropes, the lonely landscapes and haunted women and
Yeah.
the tragic inevitability. So, yeah, I think this one of the four, this was probably the best one because
Did he work with like a different writer or a different producer or something on this one? Like, how,
yeah, let's see.
not to do the music analogy again, but you know how when there's an album that a band puts out and one song sounds completely different from all the rest, and it's like,
Yeah.
okay, different producer. Like this one seems to be,
Like George Martin and Phil Spector.
Right.
yeah.
You're talking about the Beatles again. I said we're
I
talking
know,
about
that's why I
Wings.
said that.
Oh my God, I didn't realize he did. There's a few movies here I didn't realize he did. I know I've seen Requiem for a Vampire. All right, Shiver the Vampires. Let's see. I doubt that he had a same co-writer on Schoolgirl Hitchhikers, but Monique Nathan co-wrote the Shiver of the Vampires, and no, it was Jean Rollin and Jean-Pierre Boyou and Christian Menuet.
Yeah.
Who is
It
who was
seemed it
that?
seemed to me like like the entire, like the cinematographer was different, the writer, like everything.
Yeah.
It seemed to me like it must have been a completely different group of people that made this movie because it was so different. It's
Yeah.
like a new day.
Maybe he just learned his lesson.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So final thoughts on this. Bill, why don't you go first?
It's wow. What can I say about the Grapes of Death that I haven't said already? I think it works probably the best out of all of the movies. I would say this and Living Dead Girl are the two best. Although I liked all of them to varying degrees. Uh, but this one, it really has something. It has something special because it's sort of like a zombie apocalypse scenario that's envisioned in a totally different part of the world other than what we're accustomed to. Most of us, anyway, in America. Like the idea of it being imported into America gives it that quality because unfortunately it never was shown in America. I think it could have been a really, at least a big hit on the drive-in circuit. I don't know why anybody put this money. Maybe because they couldn't get anybody to dub it.
Mm.
I think that stopped a lot of movies, like it because it wasn't filmed in English, so they were gonna have to create a dub track for it, and they probably just didn't want to be bothered.
That's
So
good.
yeah, it's sad that because I really think this movie is kind of special. I don't know. I kind of dig it. I like the way it doesn't look like it's taking place anywhere that we're familiar with, and that there are people that are living here. Even a blind woman who can somehow find her way around piles of stones. She's just sort of wandering out in the middle of
Magically.
these
Yeah.
hills of debris, and she's like, "Oh, we're in the village now. I know exactly where we are." Really?
That's funny. Owen.
Um, yeah, I love this movie. It was really good. It made you think a little bit. Like he said, it is a tragedy it didn't come to America because, like, it's not just the zombie thing. I think the whole, a pesticide could get onto a fruit and cause kind of like a pandemic kind of epidemic kind of thing can resonate in basically any generation. Like that could have worked at least, like he said, at a drive-through, you know?
Drive in.
Yeah, driving. Did I say drive-through?
Drive through.
Hey, I must be hungry. Um, but yeah, it had its like typical horror movie for its time and his theme. It was very Gene Rollins-esque in some ways, but the ending shocked me. Like it wasn't just gore and you were kind of confused and the bad guy wins. Like the last two I watched were. It was different, like it made you think, like if she was infected or she wasn't, it didn't matter. She made a choice that the viewers have to watch her make, and it's a tough choice.
Yeah.
So it was a good movie. It was. And cinematography was definitely the best out of probably all of them. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
MyKill.
I really liked this. This is the only one I think that I would voluntarily watch again. And I liked it again. I was relieved, but that it was so different from the other ones. But I didn't only like it for that reason. I want to make sure that I know I said that already, but like it's actually good. It's actually good on its own merits. And I just really wish that the other films were a little bit more linear. But that's just me. Um, but I don't really have anything else to say. I loved it. I thought it was really good. And I liked the weird ending. Um, Even though I tend to, obviously from this episode you can tell, I tend to like fairly traditional narratives that are like like point A, point B to point. But like, and when I was younger, as I remember when the X-Files was on, I always hated that show because they never told you definitively at the end like what
happened? Right.
what was, yeah, like was it or wasn't it kind of. But like as time has gone on, as I've gotten older, I have gotten to if it's well done, I like an ending like that now. Like if that's just like you know I'm much more accepting of endings that have some ambiguity, and I really liked it, and I liked this ending because it was a dark ending too. It wasn't like a happy, like, oh,
Right.
everything, well, we resolved it and everybody's healthy now
Right.
and we're fine and we're gonna get married and it's gonna be great. I liked the dark ending.
You
And
found
I
the
would
cure.
watch this movie again. It was good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, for me, this was a gore-heavy detour into Rollins's, dreamy, erotic, gothic career. I love the atmosphere in this movie. Like I said, it reminded me of an Armando Diasorio film. I like the unusual setting, and of course, he's got that emotional bleakness again. And it's both, I think it speaks to all of Rollins's best qualities in terms of being a filmmaker. It's like everything worked together in sync for this movie, and it worked perfectly. Um, it was fun. I highly recommend it, and it's definitely up there on one of the really good, Eurotrash horror films. So next up is our fourth and final film. It's called The Living Dead Girl from 1982, also known as La Mort Vivante. It was rebranded. What was that? But the alternative titles, no, I couldn't find any on this. Oh, like you said, Bill, it wasn't released here. Was Lady Dracula and Zombie Queen. U.S. screenings were limited, often part of grindhouse double bills or horror festivals, but I didn't find any evidence of that. So the synopsis is as follows. In the French countryside, two careless men illegally dispose of toxic waste in the crypt beneath a decaying chateau. In the process, they disturb the tomb of Catherine Valmont, a beautiful aristocrat who died tragically years earlier. The chemicals, combined with an unexplained supernatural force, revive Catherine, but she returns as something unnatural, a pale and silent revenant with a thirst for blood. She escapes the crypt and wanders the chateau, confused and childlike. When a group of intruders breaks into the estate, Catherine brutally murders them in a frenzy, revealing her vampiric hunger and uncontrollable rage. Meanwhile, Helene, Catherine's childhood friend and former lover, returns after receiving a mysterious letter. She is shocked to discover Catherine alive, though clearly not human. Rather than recoiling in fear, Helene, of course, becomes protective and obsessive, vowing to care for Catherine no matter the cost. As Catherine's bloodlust grows, Helene lures victims to the chateau to feed her out of love, loyalty, and a refusal to let go of the past. But Catherine's tormented by what she's become, racked with guilt and longing for peace. Ultimately, as the deaths mount and Helene's sanity unravels, their relationship collapses under the weight of grief and denial. The film ends in tragedy with Catherine choosing death over monstrosity and Helene descending into madness and self destruction. So I'll go first on first impressions
That
of the
doesn't
movie.
sound accurate at the end.
No,
But okay.
Yeah.
all right. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I meant to put a note in to ask you guys about that because I had the AI make this. I could not find a full. This was another one.
Oh, okay. AI
Give
took
me a
some liberties.
synopsis.
Yeah.
AI always messes up at some point.
So,
Wait, how did that end again?
how did the
All right.
film?
Well, it wasn't Elaine that lived. It was
Oh.
the living dead girl. She was
The
kind of
living
like
dead
left
girl.
alone there.
Yeah, she tried to drown herself and Helene rescued her, and then Catherine repays her by eating her,
That's right.
basically. And then she like screams she's like, she knows that she didn't want to do that, but she did it because she couldn't help herself, and she's very tortured
Yeah.
at the end. There's a lot of screaming in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, there were so many screams.
All right, go
Screaming.
first, Roger.
Not working for me. All right, hold on. I was trying to look something up there. I wasn't sure what to expect, and there were moments where the pace could have been picked up. That's pretty much in all these films. But I really liked it. It was definitely confusing, and I about halfway through, I just kind of stopped trying to figure out what was going on. Like all the films tonight, I would love to have seen them at the drive-in, especially like this one and the last one when they first came out. That would have been cool. This was nice and gory, and I think horror folks are gonna like this one. So let's get into it. What we got in the cast here is nobody really stands out to me in this movie. Let me see what I
They
have.
used a lot of tempera paint for the blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, all
Super
pink.
bright red.
Hey, the lead actress looks like Gwyneth Paltrow a little bit.
Oh, I would say so. Yeah,
The living dead girl.
yeah.
And
Add
need
5 pounds.
add 5 pounds.
Right.
So here we've got a poster for the film.
That's
This looks
Gwyneth
like it would have been
Paltrow.
Emol vivant.
looks like it would have been in a video store.
Yeah.
Oh, this could be the original poster.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that scene with the axe. That's when Helene whacks the guy in the head
Yeah,
with the
that
axe.
annoying husband. Oh, I was so glad
yeah.
she did.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
was such
he
a
was an
dick.
annoying prick, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's like, there's nothing strange going on out there.
Right.
He
Everything
was
she
just
said.
a typical dumb idiot.
Yeah. That was great. I liked watching him get his head hacked in with the axe.
I think for this film, I didn't find any. So I think a lot of
Yeah.
are just other ones that were related somehow, like this one. I didn't even realize Strange Things Happen at Night was
We
uh,
saw this one. That's the one with Crimson Cult.
yes.
Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, that's another.
Oh, I remember that one.
Did she have claws like that?
Yes,
Yeah.
at the beginning.
Oh,
Doesn't
well,
she?
she had fingernails. She
she-
killed people with her fingernails in the beginning. I was thinking it could be called the fingernail killer.
Mm-hmm. Deadly Nails.
Deadly manicure.
I love
Manicure of death.
I love that these movies had so much blood in it because I love watching my wife squirm in the chair. She's like, I don't like this. I hate blood.
I thought it was hilarious how quickly, like, the chemical, like, brought her back to life.
Yeah,
Yes.
it
It was
happened
like-
instantly.
It was so instantaneous. Like, she's like, bam, she's back to life.
Well,
And immediately starts killing people. Like, no hesitation, no, like, what's happening to me, no nothing, just bam.
it also helped that even though she had been dead for 2 years, she basically looked like she had just died 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Exactly. Yes. She had not decomposed, which is too bad, actually, because it would have been kind of cool to have like half of her face all skeletal and shit. But
Right.
oh well.
Or like the toxic whatever revives her and makes her young again, but then she a little over the course of the film starts to rot
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
This reminded me of it. This could easily be, and they should rip it off. It could easily be a plot for Days of Our Lives. I can totally see this whole thing happening and on the pace that it happens on that show. Here we've got another one. Oh, Caged Virgins kept popping up when I was trying to find.
Aged
Was it Caged
virgins.
Virgins?
That's Jess Franco.
No, yeah, there was
What a
another
great
Virgins
title.
movie though. That was a Jean Rollin film. Did we cover
Oh,
Cage?
no, I'm sorry. Caged Virgins is a Jean Rollin film. It's Requiem for a Vampire.
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah. Hunchback of the Morgue. That's a Paul Naschy film. That's a good one.
Oh, love it.
Yeah. All right. What do we got up here? Oh yeah, more caged virgins. Two young girls trapped with no escape, forced to submit to the horrors of the pit.
Behind Locked Doors. That's a mindfuck movie.
Oh, I don't think I've seen that one.
That's
Moon-
another sex horror
Hot
film.
Whiskey, cool women.
Oh yeah, I liked this movie poster. I never heard of this one either.
Oh, Moonrunners. I forget who directed that.
That's funny.
Well,
I'm
it
gonna
might
have
be
to look
from
that up.
whoever directed Thunder Road and White Lightning. I'm not sure.
There's some reason that I remember Moonrunners.
I want to see this now. I can't even read it though. Someone read that. You take a load of.
Take a load off.
200 proof porn liquor through a police roadblock at 100 miles an hour, and if you ain't a dead man, you're a moon runner. I
Oh,
like how they spelled liquor.
yeah.
James Mitchum, Waylon Jennings.
Likker.
That's funny. Oh,
I'm
that's
gonna go to the liquor store. Likker.
Oh, Bob Clark produced it.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why I had that
Yeah.
filed away somewhere.
Bob Clark. All right, here's another one. I just liked this page, and I just wanted to share this with you guys because there's so many cool things going on. And what year is this? 73.
Well, it wasn't even
Oh,
born
yeah.
yet, motherfuckers.
Daddy's gone a hunting.
Plague of the Zombies. Great Hammer film.
Night of the Lepus.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Janet Leigh.
Oh my God. Have you, my killer Elwin? Have you seen Night of the Lepus?
No.
Basically, Lepus is like the scientific term for rabbits. It's about killer rabbits.
Okay.
Giant
Oh,
rabbits.
I would love
Giant
that.
killer rabbits.
Giant killer rabbits.
Yes.
Let me guess, their eyes are always red, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They're mean.
Here we got deliciously different, delinquent. That's a mouthful.
Wait, is it the Matrix or Donnie Darko, one of those movies? I think it's the Matrix. There's a TV on in the background in one scene where there's like they're watching some movie where there's giant rabbits running through the streets. Is that the
No.
same? No?
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but
I think when he
Donnie
goes to see the
Darko-
Oracle.
Donnie Darko does have the demonic rabbit in it.
Yeah, the guy in the
whole
rabbit
thing is a
costume.
demonic rabbit.
I think I'm thinking of the Matrix when Neo goes to see the Oracle.
The
There's a
Oracle
TV on in the
TV.
background.
Oh, God, I think you're right.
And there's like a movie with giant rabbits like running across the street. And I always thought, like, is that a real movie or did they just put that in the background?
It's possible.
Hmm.
I'm just looking it up real quick.
Does that say aqua sex?
Yes.
Is that different than aerial sex?
Sounds like the name of a lubricant.
It takes place in the Marvel
Aqua
universe.
Velva. Remember that?
You were right,
Aqua
Mike.
Velva?
The Matrix. The Night of the Lepus is playing on a TV in the background of the Matrix. Specifically, it's visible in the scene where Neo visits the Oracle, and the children are playing in the room, according to a Reddit thread. The Wachowskis, the directors, have acknowledged using the movie as an Easter egg due to its cheesy nature, and some interpret it as a thematic connection to follow the White Rabbit concept because of giant rabbits.
Oh.
Oh, that's cool.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
I'm gonna watch the student nurses next.
Giant rabbits.
yeah. Primitive and exciting. The Aqua.
We should
Right
watch
at
the
the
giant
end.
rabbit movie. We should watch Night of the Lepus for the show.
Yeah, we
We
should.
should
You know who's in that is DeForest Kelly, who played
Private
Dr.
duty
Oh.
nurses? What the fuck?
Bones.
Bones. This man needs medical attention. Damn it, Jim! I'm a doctor, not a. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, I guess that's it for all the extra
Cat
stuff.
house fever.
Private duty nurses.
Dorp the
It's what they
shit.
do off duty that's really private.
Mm.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink, say no more.
So this movie was produced during a time when Rollin was pressured to deliver more violent and conventional horror films. It was
Mm.
one of the goriest and most tragic efforts, blending graphic violence with the poetic sadness that defined his earlier vampire films.
I thought it was so funny that scene where the realtor woman or the woman that's taking care of the property and her boyfriend are like having sex on the couch, and then they hear a noise, and he goes in to see what it was, and he comes back in the room,
He's like,
and
ugh.
he like waits until he gets almost standing right over her, and then he like tilts his head back and bleeds all over her,
Ooh, it's gotta be right.
and she just screams and screams and screams and screams. It's like, oh my God.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of screams.
Ugh.
Yes.
It's like really quiet scene and then screaming, screaming, screaming. And the deaths all took forever. Like there were so many. There's definitely a pacing issue with this movie for sure. I think that's the biggest weakness of this movie is that the pacing and it's very meandering and like
I remember now the screams were happening and her lover, Ellen was in the basement listening to the screams and she was feeling pretty guilty because it was
she
she
was.
that brought her there.
Yes.
It doesn't
Yeah,
make sense when you consider her character arc
yeah.
5 minutes
It's the
later.
only
in
time
the
she seemed
movie.
upset. She didn't seem
She's
upset
more
when there was a
evil
dead
than the
body on the front
person that's
steps.
dead.
Yeah.
Right.
She was like,
She gets to the house, there's a corpse on the front steps, and she doesn't barely
Yeah.
hesitates.
Okay, I'll
She
step
just
over it.
Yeah,
she
she just
just
steps
left
over
her there.
into
She
the
didn't
house.
I said that to my wife. I'm like, she's not going to do anything about that.
she
And
might not
didn't
be
even
dead. You could check,
react or anything. Yeah, no, like
Oh,
yes, yeah. The screaming is the only thing that upset her in the whole movie. Everything else,
Right.
she went off the deep end. Helene went off the deep end, man. She was
and I love the.
kidnapping and killing and everything.
That's true. I love the big dichotomy in this. Is Catherine's alive, but she's not really alive.
Hmm.
She
Right.
can't really return to life, so to speak. I really like that, and she's not a monster. She's a revenant in this, which I thought was cool.
Which is
Uh,
only thing I know about Revenant is the name of a DiCaprio
DiCaprio
movie.
film.
What does Revenant mean?
It's someone who comes back from the dead to seek revenge.
Yeah, it reminds me of not a good movie. Remember Justice League when Superman came back from the dead?
Oh
Mhm.
yeah,
And he didn't know who he was for a little while, and he was like fighting
Mm.
Justice League and shit.
yeah,
It's that same kind of mind frame that this director was trying to portray, right?
yeah.
Like they were dead, but they were alive.
I liked the fact that Catherine felt guilty about needing to survive off of the blood of humans. And she, when she finally got to the point where she was speaking and she said, I'm evil, kill me, destroy
Yeah.
me. Like that was the most interesting moment in the whole movie. I was like, oh,
Me too.
that's
I
cool,
thought the same
that
thing.
she's aware.
She became
Yeah.
more and more self-aware as the movie went on.
Mm,
Exactly.
I thought it was
that was
funny
very
how the American characters were stereotypically American.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here, Harry. Why are we doing this, Harry?
constant arguing. Yeah.
I was a little shocked that that was the last we heard of the wife, where she catches fire and she jumps into the water,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
you don't hear anything else from her. I mean, I guess because she's dead,
Well,
but
she's dead.
I didn't know if they were still going to bring her out of that water for something
Yeah,
else.
me too. I
I gotta
wondered
admit
about that.
that special effect was much better than I would have expected from this movie. The woman on fire
Full
running
body
from the
burn.
building, yeah, full body burning, jumping over the wall and into the water. I was like,
Yeah, but the problem is she ran like 6 miles through like 3 rooms and dodged like 6 tables and 2 chairs
Yeah.
and then finally jumped in the water. It was
yeah,
like, what the hell, lady? Stop, drop, and roll.
I was yelling that at the
Right?
screen. I'm like,
stop, drop,
drop,
and
and
roll.
roll.
Stop,
That's the
drop, and
worst thing
roll.
you can do is
Ran
take off
like
running.
6 miles on fire.
Oh my God. Yeah, this movie, I was kind of happy that when the characters were speaking English every so often. It was sort of a
Mm,
refreshing change.
Yeah,
mhm.
but that bothered me because I had the volume down
Oh,
Mm.
Because, I got a roommate or whatever, my girlfriend, and I was like, oh, I gotta have it down because she doesn't want to hear the screams.
Oh, the screaming, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
I have it down, and then all of a sudden, I'm like, I can't hear what the fuck they're saying because they didn't have subtitles when the
Yeah.
Americans spoke.
yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Yeah. I had the same problem actually with the subtitles. Yeah. I was
That
like, what's
happened
going
when
on? Oh, they're speaking English.
I briefly had a Japanese roommate, and we were trying to watch movies together, and I would only show things that had Japanese subtitles so that he knew what they were saying. And
right.
we put on Kill Bill, and there's portions of that movie that are spoken in
No
Japanese, and
subtitles.
there were no English subtitles there, so we had no idea what they were saying.
That's
That's
funny.
awesome.
Oh.
The tables had turned.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Oh my God. But I thought it was interesting too, the whole thing where the girl has to, now she's got to provide sustenance for the
Yeah.
living dead girl. And it
Mm.
was like, it was weird because it was sort of this weird mix of vampire and zombie almost.
Yeah, I didn't realize she was drinking the blood at first. In the beginning, she gets up and she kills the guys that are down there with the chemicals, and it looks like she's just killing them and letting them fall, and that's it. And then uh I don't know, at some point she kills somebody and then she gets down and like bows down over them, punches down over them, and I was like, wait a minute, what is she drinking the blood? And then it turned out, yeah, that's what she was doing. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
at first it didn't seem like that was what she was doing, and but she didn't have vampire teeth or anything, so she was just drinking.
Right. I'm sorry, but the whole bringing the chemical thing in, you knew as soon as you saw that, it was going to be a bad move. Something horrible was going to come of it.
And those guys were assholes on two levels. One,
Grave robbing.
illegally dumping the chemicals, and two, stealing the jewelry from the corpses.
Yeah.
Yeah, there
So
was
they
no
definitely
end
deserve
to it.
death.
There was no limit.
There's no limit to how low they would sink.
They were rude. I'll come right out and say it.
They deserved it. They were it's just rude. Yeah, they
Oh my God.
deserve death. But I felt like the entire plot of the movie could have been like condensed down into the first hour, and they could have taken it, like done something else with it in the, I don't know. It seemed stretched out, drawn out, like
You
the
know what?
yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it could have been a great movie if there was any character development.
Mm,
Like like all of it would be good if there was some, like, if you actually, like, let's say the editing and you actually saw, like, a half hour's worth of her and her, you know, girlfriend, lesbian friend, or whatever it was, childhood friend. Like, you saw more of that and got
yeah.
more of the development of the character and, like, empathized with them more, right?
Mm, mm,
They just throw you into it and you're supposed to, like, assume it. You
right.
have to assume the love that these people have for, especially with that other one, Shiver the Vampire. There
Yeah.
was zero character development, and you were supposed to think that she had such a strong connection with her cousins,
Yeah.
with her husband,
Right.
all that, right?
Yeah.
This movie in particular, if you got a little more character development,
Mm,
it could have been way better, way
yeah.
Yeah.
better.
I mean, Francois Blanchard played Catherine, and her performance here is considered iconic, actually. It's
Mm.
a silent scream of beauty,
Awesome.
sadness, and monstrosity. So I think she did a good job. She underplayed it, I think.
She did
Yeah.
a good
Yeah.
job. I think the woman that played Helene was very wooden. Like they needed to do more with
Need to
her.
be, right.
Yeah.
I really liked the Catherine character because, for the reason that we mentioned about how she slowly became more and more aware of who she was now and what she was now, and she didn't like it. Like
Mm,
it was something that had happened to her against her will, and this wasn't. She didn't sign on for this, so
Right.
that made it really tragic at the end, where she's the only one left alive.
mm.
Like everybody else is dead for real. Although she could have gotten some of that chemical and been like, psh, 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 and then everything would have been okay. You could have got one of those spray bottles and just been like, psh, psh, psh.
Yeah, she and the two women who even went back down into the basement, into the crypt in another scene in the movie, and there was like no mention of any chemical smell or residue or gas or anything left over from the
Like
spill.
they were
Right.
right. Inconsistencies because
Mm.
it's a dated movie, so to speak.
I wonder if that toxic chemical and the wine would cancel each other out if you had a spray bottle of each. Yeah.
Right.
It'd be worth a try at that point. I mean,
Yeah.
you couldn't go wrong.
Where'd you get that? I found it in the other movie.
Found it the other movie.
Oh man. Yeah, this one I liked that it again it took all of Jean Rollin's best qualities in terms of filmmaking and put them together. It was coherent, it was understandable, yet it was still dreamy and surreal and had all that. I definitely liked it for that. So, all right. So, final thoughts on Living Dead Girl. I keep thinking of the Rob Zombie song. So,
Yeah, me too.
MyKill,
Me
why
too.
don't you go?
Uh, Good, but not nearly as good as the Grapes of Death. And I really think the big Achilles heel of this movie is the pacing. Like for me, if they had done something about the pacing, it would have been more enjoyable. But I think the performance of the main character was good. The woman who played the Living Dead girl, yeah, she was good. I don't think many of the other actors were any good, but she was good, and I liked the dark ending.
Yes. Yes. Bill.
This was also a fave of mine for tonight's movies. I can't decide which one I like better, actually. I said Grapes of Death, but I could have meant Living Dead Girl. And this was the first time I saw the movie, criminally unseen Living Dead Girl. I can remember when everybody was into this movie, like it must have been like the later part of the 90s. It was out on DVD for the first time in America. I think
Because the
Redemption.
Rob Zombie song.
Maybe. Um, but yeah, it's well worth looking up. I mean, now it's readily accessible, so you don't even have to try that hard. Why haven't you seen Living Dead Girl yet? Is what I ask you. And I don't expect an answer. It's a rhetorical question.
Owen.
Um, I went into it thinking it was going to be the best movie, but similar to Bill, I have a tough time with death of grapes of death, right? Love that one. But by far, what I got out of this movie, more out of all of them, is the best actress is the dead girl. She
Yeah.
is she for some reason she captured every scene. I loved her character arc. And it started with a lot of gore, like it was going to be a gore horror movie, so it kind of captured you like it was going to be that. But there really wasn't much after that.
That's not true.
I mean,
There were a couple of scenes of her taking bites out of people and ripping people's sides open and
no,
blood
you're
all
right.
over.
You're right. You're right. You're right.
You
Yeah.
fell asleep. Just admit it. No, I'm kidding.
He's right. He's right. I shouldn't say there wasn't much after that. I should say the entire middle of the movie has none of it, and then it
Mhm.
becomes
Yeah.
the piece of it.
Yeah,
You
there's
know,
a yeah.
like you actually have a movie to watch, not just blood and gore and guts. You know.
Mm.
Yeah, second to first best movie on this list that we've done tonight. You saw a lot of Rollins doing his thing. What I like about it is a lot of his movies. Remember when I said he was being like pretentious or whatever earlier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like he's trying to explain something, and it's like his last couple movies, like this one and the other one, it's like he's writing a poem, but the other ones is like he's doing interpretive dance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one's
That's
gonna
deep.
interpretive dance.
Yeah, that's
But
deep.
but at least 7 out of 10 people understand your poem, you know? So he had that all come together in this movie, I think.
Nice. Nice.
That's my
Yeah,
thoughts.
it's definitely one to check out. I actually liked it because I thought there was a lot of gore in this movie.
Right. I didn't mean it that way. The middle has none though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there's a yeah, there's a lot at the very, very beginning, and then there's a
A big
gap,
gap.
and then yeah.
But the horror elements, the atmosphere, I think it fires on all cylinders. I don't think it was as good as Grapes of Death. I think that was the best one of the evening
Definitely the best one.
before.
Yeah.
I'm excited to kind of check out some of his other films and do some more compare and contrasts. Who knows? Because there's some on the list there, and if I just look at it real quick here.
So did you just pick like 4 titles that sounded interesting and say we'll do these?
No, I happen to be watching Tubi, and I came across a Jean Rollin film. I think it was Grapes of Wrath, Grapes of Death, and remembered who he was, and I was like, oh, and let me see if there's any more by him, and that's how we went.
No, I
to it.
mean, once you decided that we were going to do his films, did you just pick 4? Because you said you had never seen Schoolgirl Hitchhikers before, so you didn't pick ones that you had already seen. In other words, you
No,
picked
I didn't see any of them, and I
you just
picked
picked titles that.
ones that were easily available for us to watch and for the viewers.
Oh, okay, I see.
So like a lot of them, like there was ones I wanted to do actually, I don't know, a week or two ago, we talked about when we were doing the newspaper ads, we talked about Beyond the Door, and I have that on VHS tape, and I'm like, oh, I want to see that because I know Bill, you were like going nuts over it. And I don't think I could find it anywhere that wasn't free. So
It's on YouTube for free.
oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's under the original title Chisei, Chisei,
Okay.
1974. If you search for it that way, you'll find it. It's in English. It's
Oh,
not
cool.
in Italian.
See that? You
Uh-huh.
should have asked the guru. He knows. He knows.
I was thinking for next month, what if we each picked a film? And I don't know, I might have the caveat and say Jaws is going to be an assumed one to talk about, but it's just such an over talked about and obvious film. But Fourth of July films, if any of you guys have any, films that maybe don't necessarily
4th
take
of
place
July,
around
but a
Fourth of
little bit
July.
of horror theme.
Yeah, like a horror theme, or maybe something that you just happen to watch every Fourth of July. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there as an idea. We don't have to do it. Just want to see what's out there for that. So
Frogs.
Frogs. Oh yeah, that's true.
Frogs is a 4th of July movie.
That's a good one. That's true. I love that movie.
Me too.
All right,
Hey,
folks.
you could make a movie called Died on the 4th of July instead of Born on the 4th.
Well, this is the sequel.
Mortally wounded on the
Right.
4th of July.
Died on the 4th of July. And he
Traumatized on the
yeah,
4th of
like
July.
Jason and Michael Myers and the Predator.
Mildly injured on the 4th of July.
I think you're coming unraveled. But I like where you're going with that.
That
Where
is
I'm
a good
going,
one.
right? Yeah. All right.
All right, Bill, where can the folks find you online?
groovydoom.etsy.com is where you can purchase issues of our fanzine Drive-In Asylum. You can also catch me and my co-host Sam Panico on the Drive-In Asylum double feature. It usually streams on Saturdays at 8 p.m. via the Groovy Doom YouTube channel or the Groovy Doom Facebook page. There you
Nice.
go.
And you can find me at havenpodcasts.com, where you'll find all my blogs and podcasts and shows, as well as you'll find me at soaphub.com and soapcentral.com, and maybe another website soon, TBA. So thanks a lot for joining us, folks, and we'll be back next month with something fun to talk about. Adios.
Bye-bye.
Guys.